Welcome to episode 28 of 22 Man Game with Jared and Dame. I'm Jared. That's Damon. It is 8:30 p.m. on a Monday, April 6th, 2026. Damon, how are you doing today?
Doing all right, Jared. Tired. It has been a little bit for us, a little over 3 weeks, I think, since our last recording. We kind of just wanted to let free agency play out so then we can come back and talk about it, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. But how about you, Jared? How are you doing this fine evening, fine Monday evening?
I'm doing well. I'm hoping our listeners don't still think that Max Crosby is a Raven. That little bit of commentary went out of date pretty quickly, unfortunately.
Did we talk about that last time?
I believe we did. I believe it
Oh, and then we
was,
and we went
yeah,
back for he's not a Raven actually.
yeah.
Ouch. That's tough.
Ouch. Yeah. No, I knew that when we came back, that was probably top of the docket was, hey, sorry. Um, no,
Sorry, the
I'm
Ravens
good.
are
We've obviously
cowards.
spent the last 3 weeks positively hucking discs, and it's been a great time. Very nourishing experience.
Oh yeah, nature.
Yeah.
Oof.
All right. Now that we know how each other's feeling, which is the required prerequisite for any NFL and college football related news, I think we should just jump right into it because, of course, 3 weeks out after a wild free agency period. Did I sell it? My tone of voice did that.
Yeah, we're gonna review every single free agent move that's happened across the whole league by all 32 teams.
You're asking yourself, but who signed for the veteran minimum? Don't
Mhm.
worry.
In
We're
a
not going
new
to tell you.
19-part series starting today.
Yeah. And please enjoy this 4 hour recording of just the NFC East. Um, 6 minutes
Oh,
of
brother.
analysis for signings of guys you'd ever heard of. No, we I think are gonna skip a lot of the kind of free agency rundown that you would traditionally see on another program, just because if you listen to any other NFL podcast, which I assume we were not your first, though if we were, thank you for that. You've probably already gotten a picture of the landscape. We more wanted to take the time to share our top five favorite and least favorite moves for each of us. We like to be a little bit salty, a little bit sassy, a little bit judgy. But before we get there, we're going to hit the pieces of news that really called out to us, both in general and I think from an ethical ball standpoint as well.
Mm, mm. Yeah, some non-free agent news prior to our free agency breakdown. I'll start with this. An executive order came out from the man on top himself, Trumpo, involving college sports. Now, Donald Trump is not like sitting here making this by himself and then saying this is what we must do. I'm sure there are just other people that made it and they were like, "Hey, what do you think?" And he was like, "Yeah," and he signed it and then it came out. It was like 75 pages long. So if you want to go read the whole thing, go ahead. Here's what I took away as the most important things. They want to establish a clear and fair eligibility limits, including a 5-year playing window. So that's kind of what it was supposed to be. But with COVID, we had some medical years, COVID years, red shirt years. And you got guys like Tyler Shuck, who recently came in at 25 years old, right? And that is way too long in the NFL landscape. And of course, this affects college basketball as well. But players in basketball, of course, only have to go for 1 year before they can come to the league. Where football, it's 3 years. So it's a little more that you'll see older football players than older basketball players typically. They want to, yeah. Go ahead. You have feedback on that first part?
Oh, I was speaking of old players because yes, Tyler Shuck being 26 is an anomaly. Does the name Brandon Whedon mean anything to you?
Browns quarterback, right?
Yeah. Do you know how old he was when he was drafted?
I had no idea he was even old. I'm gonna assume he was like 27. Just an absurd age.
He was 28. He was
Oh my
drafted at
goodness.
age 28, which is hard to imagine. No, the other thing I'll add to that, though, not to step on two man games business, but the biggest eligibility issue I had seen was former drafted NBA players who played in the G League just signing back with their college teams. I saw that happen once or twice.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely very egregious. Um, and I also think I have no problem with there being a little more regulation on the side of college football, but I'll let you continue. I don't want to cut you off.
No, yeah, and I mean to your point, I would say, and when you watch basketball as well, this kind of comes into play, and I'm sure Dom and I will talk about this too. This just happens to be the first podcast since this order came out. There's a development difference, right, between a 23-year-old, a 24-year-old, and an 18-year-old. And basketball and football are both physical in their own respective ways, and there's just a different body that you will have as a player when you're that age, even if you're not as talented, right, as the 18-year-olds who are only going to spend a year or two in college. But you've been playing in a system at a school for 5 years, and you're huge and developed. It's like, yeah, it just seems a little weird, kind of not in the nature of the game. And like I think about, the student side of it. If I'm a college student and I'm 19 years old, 20 years old, I want to go to the games to root for not grown adults that are just disguised as
Yeah, yeah.
college athletes. It's a little strange. So yeah, that's weird, and I do like that they're hopefully going to buckle down on that. And this next one too is a big one for me. Setting structured transfer rules, a limit of one transfer, is kind of a big thing for academic and athletic continuity. So in the last, like, it hasn't really been, it's only been a recent thing, hasn't been a thing forever, but the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, the transfer portal is insane in both football and basketball. Players are just going all across the country to whatever school kind of gives them the best NIL deal or is going to promise them the most playing time or etc. And people are just flying around. There's no sort of like continuity, which is, when people ask me if I watch college sports, it's honestly the first thing I think of is the turnover. It's like it's really hard for me to watch and care about it because it's just a school and a mascot, but I don't know any of the players because they change every single year dramatically as they're transferring or entering the league. So hopefully that kind of gives places more of an identity that fans can kind of associate with for even 2 to 3 years rather than just every year it's an entirely new team. Um, so I like that. And then the academic side, I assume it's, people going from school to school, even if they're not there for degrees. I'm sure that's kind of throwing a wrench in their plans.
Yeah, I imagine managing degree requirements, especially between universities where, hey, your, chemistry credit at one school doesn't mean the same thing as your, chemistry credit at this school. Now we've got to figure out how to transfer these. And I imagine that's difficult. And I think you make an interesting point that I think about it, and on the one hand, I want students to have freedom to control their academic destinies. And I would rather live in an NIL world where students are getting paid than a no pay system where the students are, just getting an education for putting their bodies on the line playing these sports. I think it's, you know, I think toning down the NIL environment is a better premise than trying to expand the no pay environment. But I think you make a good point that it is difficult to care about college sports. And granted, I went to a school, and I guess you did as well, where like for much of my life, unless it's baseball, we really weren't playing high level athletics. And so it's difficult to form an attachment to the team when you're not having success. And then you also don't necessarily have a ton of players who are high end talents or consistently part of the team, that kind of thing. If your best player is leaving, or your coaches are leaving, that kind of thing, it's difficult. And I wonder if this will come down somewhere where you can transfer as many times as you want, but maybe awards eligibility is conditional on it, or you get some sort of bonus from the NCAA for staying. I don't know.
Mm.
I think it's an interesting premise, and I don't want there to be too much federal overreach in how this is managed, but I also don't mind trying to strike a balance between the old and the new here.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is because I think, for a long, long time it was structured. It was you just play in college, you don't get paid, you kind of accept it. And then, when NIL came into play, it just became the wild, wild west, and people were just going everywhere. So now they're like, okay, we got to reel it back a little bit, because it is wild. So. We'll see how it looks. Next thing, they want to implement some of that revenue from NIL and more money kind of going into the NCAA space. Um, into opportunities in both women's sports and Olympic sports because it's primarily in just men's NCAA athletics. So they want to somehow get in the Olympics involved, which I'm not sure how that comes into play. But I do, understand the point of what about women's college sports? Obviously, that's an issue that, well, not an issue, but it's something that needs to be kind of hyped up more and more, I think. So I understand that. Do you have any clue on like Olympic what when it comes to Olympics, what does this even mean?
My assumption would be that there are certain sports where your prime is college age years, and so I wonder whether there's a partnership between the NCAA and like the International Olympic Committee or the US Olympic team for something like gymnastics, where a lot of the elite gymnasts are under 23 years old, that type of thing. And I feel like also, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think it can be a struggle for Olympic athletes to afford going to all the different competitions and qualifiers around the country. And so I don't know if this is something already under the NCAA's purview or whether this represents an expansion of where the NCAA lies, but I think there is a significant portion of the athlete pool that is college age, at least in gymnastics. So I think this has been a bit of a talking point. Um, I will say the fact that this is expanding opportunities in women's sports tells me that this was probably just put in front of Trump to sign. I don't think that was
Yeah.
one he was cooking up in the Oval Office himself.
You don't think he
Uh,
read through the 75 pages?
I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
I am skeptical. I do want to add, I listened to this podcast, the Optimist Economy podcast, and they sometimes like to make sort of playful like pitches for how society should improve. And one
Hmm.
of them was that every city that wants to make a stadium deal with a men's team has to have a women's stadium, like for the women's teams. Like if you want to build, let's say, an NBA stadium in Seattle, you would have to have a WNBA stadium built in Seattle, or like there have to be equivalent accommodations among the major sports.
Hmm.
And I think there is massive room to expand. I mean, especially I think what's happening with the WNBA over the last few years in women's basketball. There's a real,
They are
from a
expanding
purely,
rapidly.
yeah. I was actually reading an article. I think I had it open as we were getting ready to disc golf yesterday. Now that I think about it, that was all about how they botched the WNBA expansion draft by like almost immediately just announcing who was going to what team and like not milking it at all.
Mm.
And if you want to be purely cynical about it, I'm sure there's plenty of money to be made if you're willing to make that sort of seed investment in expanding the reach of women's sports.
Hmm.
Of course, from an ethical ball perspective, I think women's sports should be treated equally regardless of that. But either way, I approve of this part. And then I need you to explain this last thing to me a little bit more because I'm not familiar with this last bullet here.
Yeah, so the idea is to ban improper financial arrangements, including pay for play agreements. So I kind of alluded to this earlier, but part of NIL, I think, not legally, but kind of under the table is like if you come here, you will play this amount and you will make this much money for playing this amount. So it's almost like breaking down your playing time to like a salary, like you're getting this much per minute of play. Um,
Oh, gotcha.
which is kind of like it's kind of almost like a tampering thing. It's like you really just are supposed to say we'll pay you this much to come to the school, and you figure out the how much you'll play part later. You're not supposed to
Yeah.
kind of guarantee playing time and things like that. Um,
Yeah, that
yeah.
makes sense. Like we're gonna guarantee you a minute's floor that you'll play this much. Um, I think the bigger problem I have with something like that is if I rolled my ankle and I can still play, but I don't know how bad it is. And if I'm not on the field, I'm not making money. You know,
Hmm.
how many injured athletes are putting themselves back out there either because they just want to maximize their deal or because they're, maybe a second, third tier player who likely won't make NFL money. And this is sort of their one opportunity to make money from the game, but they're on a smaller NIL deal. I don't think you ever want to put a student athlete in a position where they're playing hurt because there's a financial incentive in that. Um, so honestly, this is an unexpectedly measured approach from the Oval Office on all of this, I think.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. And again, 75 pages, so maybe there's some insane stuff in there too. But
Mhm.
these were the kind of the main takeaways I saw. People were like, "Oh yeah, okay." Um, so if that's the case, great.
Yeah. On page 74, they just destroy curling. There's no more curling in the United States. That's the trade-off for all the rest of this.
That's tough.
Um,
It's
it
tough.
is tough. It is tough. Okay, rolling along here a little bit. The NFL has made an announcement that they are developing a flag football league backed by all 32 teams, though I'm not sure what teams would not back it. Does the owner of the Los Angeles Chargers just hate flag football? I don't know.
Yeah, I
They
really
did
should
play a
have read more
game.
into it. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I no, I just they played a game between the American flag football national team and some NFL athletes made two flag football teams, and the American national flag football team crushed them. So hopefully the league takes this seriously enough and doesn't try to um force NFL guys. I mean, this feels rife for, OBJ talking about, oh, I want to be back in the league. Like, are they going to force OBJ into flag football to get us to watch? I hope it is a flag football league that the NFL is paying for and not an NFL flag football league with everything that comes with that.
It's like the equivalent of the G League in the NBA. It's just like got some guys that we don't
Yeah.
quite want to put on our roster, but they're
Yep.
just down there playing flag instead.
And there's been talk about the UFL being kind of a feeder program, and I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, but this is a different sport. And
Hmm.
I feel like the NFL just absorbing and co-opting what is probably a rich culture of flag enthusiasts and its own game and industry just feels wrong. Although I will say, if they brand it the NFFL, that is pretty funny.
Yeah. I just wonder, like, when I read backed by all 32 teams, I was like, does that mean like all the places that there's an NFL team, there will be an NFL flag team? That's what I didn't like understand, you know?
Yeah, I'm
Or if
sure
that
there's
just
flag.
means, hey, we support it. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, who knows? I watched some flag recently. It's just a bunch of Barry Sanders out there. Just a bunch of elusive guys trying to juke you out.
Um, I really want to get a chance to play flag football at some point. I think that would be super fun.
One drive and we're cooked for sure.
Yeah, partnership Tomorrow Sports to develop a professional flag football league for men and women backed by all 32 teams, plus a plethora of well-known names in and out of football. So this sounds more like a maybe financial support. Um,
Uh,
Not necessarily clear how many teams. I'd imagine they probably start
Maybe like
small.
8 teams or something.
Yeah, that feels right to me. And a lot of former players, Arik Armstead, Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson, current players also investing in this. So interesting. Uh, can't wait to see what happens in 4 years when this thing's actually done.
4 years when Jared and I are at the flag football tryouts.
Yeah, when I mean, are the positions the same? Is it like, I'm sure there's different positions. I don't want to speak out of turn.
I realized that I
Um,
named you J Dog before this started, so I just renamed you back to Jared.
Thanks. I noticed it and I didn't mind, and I think that's a little reward for anyone paying attention. Is to see the little J Dog nugget. Though I appreciate that because if I ever have to take another professional Zoom and I'm branded as J Dog, that will be a tough situation. So
Yeah, that's fair.
um, that I can handle the lowercase J, but I can't do J Dog.
Let's talk
Oh,
about hard knocks, or shall we say, easy knocks, as the two
ooh.
Super Bowl teams this year, the Seahawks and Patriots, will be the focus teams for the next 2 seasons. So it'll be the Seahawks this summer, just coming off a Super Bowl victory, and the Patriots next summer. Who knows what's happening with the Patriots by then? I feel like they usually do try to take teams that are kind of on the rise or kind of down, and like where will they be in the future. Um, I can't think of any recent years, at least, where it's like we're going to take a really good team. So it's an interesting approach this time around.
Um, yeah, well, there are previously, it appears, provisions that prevented you from being part of Hard Knocks. And so uh, the original rules, I believe, were that if you made the playoffs, you could avoid being on Hard Knocks. Um, and that's no longer true. If you're featured in the last 8 years, you also don't have to do it. If you have a first year coach, you don't have to do it. Um, so it seems like they last year changed the rules to make something like this possible where they can feature playoff teams where before that was strictly prohibited.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, I'll be honest, like as a Lions fan, Hard Knocks Detroit Lions was elite. I
hmm
think it also happened to be that we had a lot of fun personalities at that time, and so I think it was a really solid product. In general, I already don't care about Hard Knocks, and I really am not interested in the Seahawks Hard Knocks. There's some of their biggest names are like Sam Darnold, and I don't find him particularly
Let's
engaging.
go.
Yeah, bring that energy, Sam.
You know the
Made for
meme of
TV.
like of Wolverine with the like picture frame in bed?
Yeah,
Yeah, he just has like a picture frame of Kenneth Walker sitting in bed. Sad about
yeah, seriously. Yeah. Um, and then the fact that it's the Patriots next season. Oh boy, I
it. Just don't care.
what's going to happen is the Patriots are, might regress this season, and then like they're supposed to be hot, they're supposed to be darlings, and then what if they miss the playoffs this year? What if they're bounced in the wild card? How are we meant to feel about them?
Yeah,
Um,
announcing it a season before it's gonna happen seems like a risk for sure.
well, I will say one of the NFL kind of writers that I track pretty consistently is Mike Florio, and apparently the Patriots were like, we'll do it next year, and then they were like, okay, we're going to make you do it next year. So, um,
This is you.
yeah,
You signed up for this.
I mean, I remember in the last couple of years, it was difficult for them to even find a team that would participate. And so I imagine for them, they're going to jump on anyone who's not going to give them a hard no for hard knocks. So uh,
Nice.
thank you. Thank you. I saw it. There's also the in season hard knocks that might be canceled now. I didn't care much for that at all. I just think it's a bit of a stale product. But
I mean, it sounds kind of
well,
cool to watch, but like if I'm a player or something, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to do my job, play football. I don't need cameras in my face when I'm off the field too.
yeah, yeah, and it's filtered, and so it doesn't really feel like an earnest look into anything.
Hmm
And so that's yeah, I think it's an underwhelming product. I don't think the Seahawks season will generate much buzz, and I'm not optimistic that the Patriots will be well received either. So
All
let's
right.
talk about
That's way too many. That's way too much hard knock talk.
seriously, yeah. Let's move on. Tell us about some of these new rules proposed by the competition committee and approved by the owners.
Yeah. So a couple of things that matter here. League personnel are going to be allowed to consult with on-field officials when considering disqualifications for both flagrant football acts and also non-football acts, even if they're not called on the field. So this came really what seems like as a result of the DK Metcalf and fan interaction. That was kind of a big deal last season. And DK wasn't called for anything at the moment, so then he played the remainder of the game, and people thought maybe he should have been ejected or something like that. But since they didn't call anything, they couldn't disqualify him. So this will now allow them, if somebody does something, they don't catch it maybe, or they don't call the flag on time. Now they can actually go back and still hand out that punishment, whatever they decide to do. So that seems like something that kind of already should have been a rule, and now it is.
Yeah, I it might have had a stipulation that it's like as long as it's caught before the next down. So I wonder if like the league office would call down and say, "Hey, we're going to call for a stoppage to review a potentially flagrant act," kind of like in the NBA with a flagrant foul.
Yeah.
Um, or I guess like I feel like this happens in college too with targeting, um, as a penalty that doesn't exist in the NFL. I think this is a no-brainer. Especially when um there are certain acts that I think are clear and obvious disqualifications. If they start using this because a player, I don't know, thrusts too much in a celebration, I think I'll pull my hair out. But
Yeah,
um,
that would be
as
brutal.
long as they are selective about it, um, no problem with that.
Yeah. And then the other big one that was approved for just this upcoming season only, the NFL officiating department is going to be allowed to correct clear and obvious misses by on-field officials that impact the game. Now, this is because the NFL is in the process of hiring replacement officials because they have not agreed to a new CBA with the NFL Referee Association. So all the current referees that you know are probably not going to be there next season because they can't come to an agreement. It's kind of like a stalemate, kind of like a lockout, as we've seen in leagues past with players. We're now seeing with the referees. And then the NFL Players Association came out and made a statement that reads: Player safety requires trained professional officials on the field. They manage the game in real time, enforce the rules, and stop situations from escalating. That can't be replaced by less experienced crews or handled remotely. If player safety truly matters, trained professional officials on the field are not negotiable. So that was the NFLPA's response to kind of all this referee nonsense happening. You know, I when I'm 8 years old, am I going to notice that the NFL is using replacement officials? No, but I don't feel like I've known anything like this to happen in my football fandom, where we kind of have this referee league standoff. Do you have any hot takes on this, Mr. Jared?
Well, listening to Heed the Call, they made the point that do you know the Fail Mary play, the Seahawks Packers and the deep shot to Golden Tate that was ruled a touchdown for the Seahawks and won them that game? Does that sound vaguely familiar?
Yes, but he actually dropped it.
Yeah, I haven't necessarily watched the play. I think it was meant to be a pick. I think like it might have been they were fighting for the ball in the air or something.
Mm, hmm.
Either way, that took place with replacement officials because
Okay.
this happened 15 or so years ago, 14 years ago. And they were saying the people who had actually, watched at the time, like immediately after that play, they basically like immediately settled up with the refs. And I just, you know, to me, how much more money do you need to spend to satisfy the referees? I doubt they're asking for $5 million a year contracts in a league where the veteran minimum is over $1 million. It just, I don't know. Maybe they're not quibbling over money. Maybe it's something else. But I am just really puzzled that the NFL is making such a stir with the fact that you need at most in a week, I guess, 16 crews. That's a lot of staff, but not insurmountable to just pay them a little more and avoid the bad PR and having to deal with all of this. I don't know. I think that the NFLPA is right. It's a bare minimum standard that if you're going to ask people to put their lives on the line for a game, that you at the very least officiate that game well. So, um, definitely with the refs on this one. You're very rarely going to catch me siding with the league office, though. Our next bullet point may be one of those few select exceptions. Um,
Uh, um, yeah, we'll talk about that. Who are these replacement officials? Now, I'm sure there's referee associations around the country and the world that just like have referees that they can hire out like mercenaries. Um, but I really like the idea that like the NFL is calling around to kind of the local high school regions and they're like, who's the best ref in this area? Does he want to come up to the NFL for a year?
Damon, I have news for you.
Oh no.
They're calling D3 colleges. Like
Oh,
they pull a lot from the ranks of like D1 college, obviously, and have the
that's
established NFL refs.
I wasn't that far off in my
No,
satire
I they might
hilarious
they might
scenario.
legitimately call replacement officials might legitimately come from high school. I think the last time there was a shortage, they may have had
Ouch.
high school officials. If you want to take the next couple bullet points, I'll look it up to confirm here. But
That's
uh,
tough. That's tough. Yeah, Jared will do the research. I could have done the research, but instead I just made fun scenarios in my head because that's more fun. Jared mentioned this next bullet point that he may agree with that. We'll see where we lie. Roger Goodell backed the Rooney Rule, which we've had much debate about on this podcast, after the Florida Attorney General threatened civil litigation against the league if it wasn't eliminated. Basically saying that the Rooney Rule is racist because nobody should be hired on the lines of their race. It should just be skill, blah, 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 blah. We've talked about this a lot on this program. Yes and no. We're kind of up and down with the Rooney Rule. It doesn't necessarily work based on what we've seen in around the league. This past hiring cycle, we didn't really see minorities going a ton of places, right? So it's not like these mandatory interviews have landed a lot of jobs for these minority coaches. And in fact, maybe they're only getting interviews to fit the Rooney Rule, right? So that's kind of been a point of contention. So the Florida Attorney General threatening civil litigation is insane. Because it's like, oh my God, all of the front office people are African American or minorities because the Rooney Rule, because that's definitely not what's happening. So, kind of a silly thing, I guess. And I guess it's good that Roger Goodell backed it. It would be weird if he was like, you're right. This Rooney Rule thing is stupid. Why are we trying to hire minorities? That would look terrible, right? It's kind of a weird subject to dance around. But did you find out your answer on where they're getting these referees?
I'm seeing, yeah, the NFL began compiling a list of college level officials to recruit earlier this month, and
Awesome.
owners are expected to approve a sweeping set of replay enhancements, as already mentioned. Apparently, in the previous one, they had talked to some retired officials, maybe not quite high
Mm,
school, but certainly um, not going to be probably at the caliber that you would want. And to respond to your Roger Goodell point, yeah, say what you will about the Rooney Rule, but I think the wrong position to take is that it is wrong on principle and not wrong in execution, which I think is the maybe more accurate way to assess the Rooney Rule.
yeah.
Um, so props to Roger Goodell for that, and maybe that alone.
Your picture on my phone still Roger Goodell to this day. So
That's tough. I think yours is an automatically pushed one because it's what you made yourself in
mm,
your phone. So,
yeah.
um,
Yep. Oh,
well,
only the Florida Attorney General could be worse in a situation when debating something with Roger Goodell. It's like, oh, he made Roger Goodell look good. Yeah.
yeah. Roger Goodell, slipped him a couple grand and was like, "Listen, I don't want them to boo me as hard at the draft this year. Can you please say something that makes me look like vaguely credible?"
Speaking of the
Um,
draft,
you know,
Jared.
yeah. Oh, here we go. This one hits us really hard as educators, as teachers, as mentors. We're saddened, we're shocked. The
Hmm.
Pittsburgh Public School Superintendent has announced schools will be remote during the NFL draft from April 22nd through the 24th. First off, um, oh, I guess, okay, so the day before the draft, and then the 23rd and the 24th. So um, I think we can all agree that virtual school has removed a certain amount of fun from the world. And imagine how hype it would be if, because your city is hosting the NFL draft, you get a couple days off of school. Instead, you get to do Zoom. So,
And let me tell you, as
bummer.
educators, virtual school fucking blows. It sucks. Nobody learns. Everyone's miserable. It's just terrible. Now, I've never been to Pittsburgh. I don't know the layout of Pittsburgh. The guy said that they're expecting 70,000 people for the draft, which I think is an insane amount of people to say are coming there for the NFL draft. But if that's the case and Pittsburgh's not built to handle that many people and you're worried about the roads being clogged up, like that's the logistical standpoint that I can see it from. Doesn't really seem like it's the superintendent's call. That seems like somebody else that knows a little bit more about city infrastructure than the education guy. Um, but man, I was a teacher during COVID. I had to teach entirely virtual theater classes. I've had to do many a Zoom session. Our kids currently still have to do Zoom sessions occasionally for some classes or if they have a substitute or whatever. and it's just not nearly the education that you need. So, this is a 3 day period. It's not like, oh my God, the end of the world, but it just seems kind of silly that we're going virtual. It seems like we're devaluing education for the NFL draft, which is just not what we should be doing.
Even crazier, they're also going remote for the supplemental draft.
Oh, awesome.
Crickets. By the way, just as a correction, you said 70K coming to Pittsburgh. It's probably 700,000. So, um, the
How is that even possible? I forgot a
listen,
zero.
well, it's an understandable thing. When you said 70K, and I was like, I swear more people come than that typically. And then I looked it up, and like, yes, attendance numbers range from 600 to 700,000. So I would imagine
No, how
that.
do they get that many people there? For what?
Um, I've attended a draft live. It's fine.
Wasn't it in the city you were already in though?
Yes,
So
I think I walked
it's a
there.
little different. It's a little
It
different.
is. It is. It's one of those things where like, would I have potentially gone to the one in Detroit? Maybe because the idea that like your city is the centerpiece of like a national event, I think is really cool, and it's a moment where your identity as a city is being celebrated, provided they do it right.
Hmm.
Um, but if it's forcing kids to go remote, then we got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, oh man, I had a perfect transition if this Jaguars thing wasn't here. That's
Sorry
okay.
for party
That's okay.
rocking.
Wait, I got it. I got it. Speaking of drawing lines, the Jaguars have been hard at work on the blueprints for the stadium renovations they have in Jacksonville, and so they will be playing home games in Orlando next season. All those renovations are underway. I hope they're adding another pool. Thoughts on this, Dan?
It reminds me of the Raptors. After the COVID season, the Raptors, because Canada was not as open as America immediately after COVID, so the Raptors went from playing their games in Toronto to playing their games in Tampa Bay, which is hilarious because it's not even close to Toronto. So this is a little closer, but it's like it's home, but it's not. It's not home actually. And like I'm sure the loyalist of fans are still going to make whatever the hour commute is from Jacksonville to Orlando, and it'll still feel like a home game. But it's not home, and play all your players live in Jacksonville. They got to commute to Orlando too. Like, yeah, that sucks. It just sucks. Can't be done in the off season. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate. I wonder if I feel like if I'm the team, I probably just like buy rooms in a hotel for 4 months and let my players stay there optionally if they want. Um, this might be a nice time though. I will say if you're a Jaguars fan who isn't particularly attached to the city of Jacksonville, like maybe you grew up a fan because you loved a player on the team or something. Orlando is a very visitable city, obviously with Disney and Universal, so um, could be a nice opportunity for visiting fans to really make a long weekend out of it and experience that. My question for you, Damon, as the NBA expert,
Yep,
is a group of the five most athletic Jacksonville Jaguars going to be the best basketball team in Orlando?
not even close. The Magic
What
would
you think
wipe the
they're?
floor with them.
I was just making an Orlando Magic aren't very good joke. That's okay.
That's like
They aren't.
that's giving like can Alabama beat the Browns? You know, that's what that's giving.
I know that that's not actually true. Um, I know that that was the joke was that they are so bad that they actually, but I don't
They're
believe
not
in it.
even that bad. The Magic are like a fine
Um,
team. They're not the Wizards, you know. If
I don't know. Are you ready for me to know the head coach's name? I don't know.
of
I
the
feel like
Magic,
Jamal Mosley doesn't really have them,
yeah,
playing
it's
up to their
crazy
standards. So.
crazy that you knew that actually.
Yeah.
Surprised.
I don't know. I'd like to see Trevor Lawrence try to one-on-one Desmond Bain.
Yeah,
There's another one
give
for you.
me seven Magic players.
Okay.
So,
Desmond Bain,
yeah,
Paolo Banchero.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no, no,
Yep.
no. I know there's like at least there's the other guy who's like Good.
There's the other
But he's
big
out.
wing.
So it's Pelvin Caro, and he can't play against. Is it Cam Suggs on their team? Is that a guy?
Suggs is the right name. Name is not Cam.
Oh, Jalen Suggs. Jalen
Jalen
Suggs.
Suggs. There you go.
I know that's not who I'm thinking of
That's
though.
good.
Um,
I don't know who
it's
you were thinking of.
I know there was a Suggs.
Yeah.
And then there's a guy.
Brothers that went to Michigan.
It's like it's Thanasis and Giannis.
They're
Um,
bad. They're actually both on the Magic, which is funny.
oh,
They're German.
Jalen's German brothers. Oh, is it like Mo Wagner? Is that a Franz Wagner and Mo
Yeah,
Wagner? Is that it?
Franz and
Right?
Mo Wagner. Wow, look at you pulling out the
That's
names.
five. And then
Wow.
there's like a young guy
I'll
who's
give you
talented.
last names of color.
Last name's a color.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to guess, green.
Perhaps a race.
Oh, Anthony Black.
There,
Okay.
there we go. There we go. We're getting there.
No, but there isn't there a young big guy, or am I thinking of
Young big
Sacramento who
guy.
has like a young big man who's
I need a little more than a young big guy.
no, he's oh, hang on. He's talented, but he hasn't played that much. I might be thinking of the Kings. They might have a talented young big who they're not playing that much.
Last
Oh,
name, the binding of,
Walter Isaac. Okay.
not Walter.
And then where does
His name's just not even
or not
not Walter at all. But his last
Sir
name is
Walter Isaac
Isaac.
is I no wait. Isn't there's this guy who's got like a French
Yep.
name? Is he on the Magic? Is it
French name.
it's like MT? It's like Maximique or something like that. I know
Are you
I'm
thinking
probably
of
thinking of the wrong
Maxime
guy.
Reynaud
No, I don't. Maybe.
or
Yeah.
Reynaud? I think it's Reynaud. It's
He's not a
spelled Reynaud.
Magic.
He's a king.
Oh, Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan
There you
Isaac.
go.
Got it.
There you
Okay.
go. Nailed it.
All right, seven. That's seven.
Okay. All by yourself. Proud of you.
I will say, I think I knew more than you would have guessed that I would have known.
Yeah, I'm a little
So
surprised you got him even with the hints. They were vague enough that I
yeah,
was like, you had to know the player, you know.
I was thinking like I know there's a guy who kind of sounds Eastern European, and then I was like, oh, Mo, and then it was Franz, and that was
Hmm.
the big one for me there. Anyway, this is an NFL podcast. Hope you're enjoying.
That was awesome.
Uh, speaking of teams, there's 32 of them, and in the Jaguars division, the Titans got
Nice.
some new uniforms inspired by the old with the powder blue
Yeah.
of the Houston Oilers. They've changed their logo to take on that color as well. Damon, what do you think? You think this is an
Here's
improvement?
here's my
You think it's
take.
good?
Uniforms are fine. Logo fucking sucks. Logo's terrible. It's horrible. I hate it.
I think I agree. I think I agree. Granted, the logo isn't terribly different from before, but
It's just
um,
boring.
it's subdued. It looks like someone had the Titans logo left out in the sun too long, so the blue like bleached to light blue and all the colors faded.
And we don't have the flame anymore. The flame was like the best part of the
That's I knew
logo.
there was something missing. Yeah, no flame stain.
It's
The
just
flame
it's
like
doing
was
the
the
thing
thing
that
for
a lot of
character.
NBA logos have done, where it's like, let's make this as minimal and boring as possible, which
Yeah,
is
it's so.
kind of a thing. It's like what
Oh,
Cracker Barrel tried to do. Look how it worked out for them.
I here's what I don't understand is like you have the concept of a Titan. I feel like that's so cool, and the
Hmm.
Giants also have underused the fact that they're a large mythical thing. Like there's absolutely
Just
room.
letters.
They're just letter. Well, that's what I'm saying is like if New York, which is very iconic and well designed as a logo, isn't going to go the literal route with a giant, why not put a Titan looking thing on yours? Why not have someone
Why
brandish the
why
sword?
why not get Atlas carrying the Titans logo, you know?
Oh, that's sick. You're telling me that wouldn't be so cool? Um, you do that, but you make the logo a football shape, so it's like Atlas is like carrying a football with the Titans T
Yeah.
on it. That'd be pretty sick.
Put me in
Um,
a league office
or
position right now.
um, Or you could, you know what you could do? Speaking of flames, baby, give me that Hades 2 Prometheus design right on the side of
Mm,
that logo
mm.
with those
I
blue
love the
flames looking at
Prometheus
him.
design. His design's fire. I was playing that game.
Literally.
I was playing it and streaming it with my friends in Discord, and I was like, Prometheus design in this game might be like one of my favorite character designs ever. I was maybe glazing it a little too hard, but I was like, he's so cool. He's like a
No,
Street Fighter
he's
character.
sick. He looks like where they would take Zuko's design in his mid 20s if he like never broke good, you know?
Mm,
Um, he's
good
fire, man.
call.
I think they took anything distinct from their logo and removed it.
Yeah.
Um, and in a way, it feels very Tennessee and very Nashville with
Hmm.
like the oversimplified. It's oversimplified, and it feels like it's meant to be in a boutique that I can't afford anything in. And
Hmm.
so in that way, I suppose it's true to the state, but um, yeah, you can't remove the most distinctive feature of the logo. I feel like it's a waste.
Yeah. No, I agree entirely. Let's talk
Um,
about another team that has new uniforms. The
mhm.
Falcons unveiled uniforms. I know you don't like them. I think they remind me of Falcons uniforms when I was a kid, and I can't remember the last time I watched the Falcons games and they wore red, because I feel like they just wear black and white now. So if I get to see more red Falcons uniforms, then I'm okay with that.
I hear you. Maybe part of my opinion is colored by the fact that I was watching the reveal video by
Always a
like
mistake.
Andre 3000 was like the narrator, but I think I cut in late on the audio, so I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
I think that it's my problem with this, I think, is that it feels too similar to other current teams.
fair.
Like I think of the Texans red alt and it looks like this.
Uh,
And how different is this really from Tampa, which is in their division? Um, I thought at the very least the black and red felt unique. I don't like the away kit with the black pants, I think is lacking something. And then the black
mhm.
jersey with the gray pants. I don't know. I think at least you could have tried the black shorts on the red home jersey. Just feel like it doesn't do enough to not be, you know, when you're watching a commercial and they're featuring football in the commercial and you have to have a team that isn't an actual team, so you just have them be like a block color.
Mhm.
This is kind of the vibe I'm getting from this jersey a little bit.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, that's fair.
but
It is
if
not
you
like
enjoy it, you know,
I think like with their team color scheme, you can't really make a uniform that no one else has because there are several other teams that have the red, black, white thing going on. Um, but I think they're maybe they're too inoffensive. Maybe that's the issue. I don't know what NFL rule regulations are on your like normal uniform, but like, can we get like a stripe uniform that's like a regular thing? It feels like those can only be special. Maybe that's the deal.
yeah, I think that's a good. I imagine they're probably pretty stringent about like that degree of change, but I think it wouldn't be unwelcome to see, yeah, maybe a striped kit or try a little more color blocking. I don't know. I think it's pretty uninventive. I was reading about the MLB City Connect jerseys, and it seems like those get worn
Hmm.
relatively frequently. And those are like some of those are absolutely out of the box. Same with some of the NBA City jerseys.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I think the NFL has been really unambitious in uniforms, which is kind of surprising. And then when they have tried it, we got the plastic leather helmets. So
That
who's
you
to say it'd be a
liked.
good idea? I thought they had potential with the Guardian cap. So um, let's stay on the Falcons for a second. So the Falcons this offseason hired former assistant GM of the Bears, Ian Cunningham, to their general manager position. Ian Cunningham is he was a minority candidate. Um, and therefore Chicago is in theory entitled under the NFL's rules for minority hiring. If you essentially, have a candidate who leaves for a higher level position, you get two third round picks, one uh, spread out over 2 years. You get a kind of third round pick in each of the next two drafts. As a result of having that individual hired away. For example, the Lions received two third round picks for Aaron Glenn's hiring. The Niners, I believe, received picks for Robert Saleh's hiring. That type of thing. There's a weird wrinkle in the Falcons case and the Bears case because Matt Ryan is the president of football, which makes him the quote primary football executive. And Ian Cunningham, even though he's the general manager, because of Matt Ryan's position, is not the primary football executive. So the Bears don't get picks, despite the fact that he went from being an assistant GM to a GM. They appealed that ruling, and that ruling was upheld. And so the Bears will not get picks. And Mike Florio, who I mentioned earlier, made an interesting point that if he's not the primary football executive, can other teams interview him to be their general manager, interview Cunningham, without requiring the Falcons' permission, because making him a primary football executive at another franchise would be technically a promotion, right? There are certain interviews that teams can and cannot block, but I believe in the case of like a strict promotion, I don't know if they have the right to do that. In this case, does it open the door for Cunningham to be hired away? Is this fair? It's interesting. I definitely think the NFL should err on the side of being generous in supporting teams who help develop minority candidates and give them opportunities, as opposed to heighten the purse on compensatory selections. But it's interesting wrinkle.
All I could think of that whole time was, they didn't get paid for letting their minority go. Tough, tough, tough. Which just reminded me of slavery, which was sick. But yeah, it's weird because yeah, if he gets interviewed somewhere else and hired somewhere else, then the Falcons get compensatory picks. That's kind of silly. Um, in my brain, really all I think is assistant GM to GM is a promotion. So it doesn't even matter if you're not the primary. It's clearly a step up the ladders. Um, but that's keeping aside my opinion of teams getting compensatory picks in the first place for minority hires. It is strange though.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think if you are going to create a policy to incentivize hiring minority candidates, you should at least not be really particular about it. But yeah, in this case, it's just kind of it was an interesting wrinkle. And whether it should or not, it does have a practical impact on the Bears. Third round picks are no small asset, even if they are at the back of the round.
It's gonna be
Um,
crazy when the Houston Texans hire me and they gotta send third round picks to the school I work at right now.
yeah. There suddenly a ton of like back of the roster guys in college were like, we're gonna get an education major to see if we can't get, taken and we are undefeated in football. So uh
True.
for for the shirts, for the shirts. All right, let's get into some unsavory news
All right, we
real
talked about the
quick.
good minorities. Let's talk about the bad.
Um
Uh,
I for the audio listeners, that
I'm a
was Damon.
minority.
It was not me.
I'm a minority. Listen. All right, so the NFL announced that Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice, as it was pronounced last season, so I think that's how I'm supposed to say it, quote, has not engaged in conduct that violates the personal conduct policy, end quote. And the investigation into accusations into his former girlfriend is now closed. There will be no disciplinary action. Another quote, there was insufficient evidence to support a finding, end quote. So, for those of you that don't know, Rashee Rice, rather, has been involved in two scandals in his short NFL career. One was a speeding car thing that he got like a big fine for and a suspension for because there was clear video proof of him doing it and all of that. And that was, I think, in like the Dallas area, actually, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was former girlfriend basically accusing him of assault while she was pregnant, I think, at times as well over the course of several years. And because there's no evidence, I guess they're like, oh, it's fine. Jared, how do you feel about that?
Um, bad. I I feel bad about it. I not maybe a little blunt, and a little bit of a silly response, but I think first off, his trial for the traffic related incident
Yep.
is coming up soon. So interesting there. It makes me think because we talk about a lot um how players of a certain talent level are naturally protected by the league, right?
Yep.
Um, it makes me wonder with a guy like Rashee Rice, who had a very good rookie year, as I recall, and then we've been told he's very talented, but he hasn't seen the field that much, both due to injury and suspension. If he were a Cardinal, would he still be in the league? I kind of wonder whether the profile of the team that they play for impacts um how they're received. I mean, in his 3 year career, he's played 28 games. Um, if we're looking at regular season, that would be out of a possible 51,
Hmm.
and has amassed under 2,000 yards in that time. Granted, he had almost 1,000 yards as a rookie for the Chiefs, but you know, if he's an oft injured and suspended wide receiver in Las Vegas or in a smaller market team like Cleveland, is he still protected this way? Is the league really giving him that much of a leash? I don't know. I think it's worth
You forgot
considering as we
his an important stat, 1.5 heinous violations per year. Um,
yeah.
so
Um,
yeah, it's tough. It's
no,
tough.
it's one of those things. I know this sounds really strange, but like it's not like Rashee Rice is some sort of Hall of Fame level player that he's I don't know. I think it's gross. I think anybody, whether you're the worst player on your team or the best player on your team, should be held accountable.
Hmm.
And I don't trust the NFL to hold anybody accountable. Um,
Yep.
and that honestly extends to this next particular story as well with Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua, who has checked into rehab to quote improve his overall behavior in every aspect of his life. And the news of rehab came on the heels of a report that I believe on New Year's Eve, a woman who he was around, maybe going out with, apparently he let out like an anti-Semitic creed. He declared something anti-Semitic, and then also at one point bit her friend hard on the arm or the shoulder.
Hmm.
Um, so this was very much the rehab news was in response to the fact that this news was coming out. I think not to say it's not good he's going to rehab or that his desire to improve is illegitimate based solely on the timing, but um, I want to make sure that that context is present because I think it would be incomplete just to mention the rehab portion.
Yeah, and he's had other, incidents in his short NFL career. We had the thing on, I believe it was what, Aiden Ross's stream, where he was doing the
Mm,
um, the little emote that was racial in context. I know there was some stuff with the previous partner about like something. I don't remember the exact context, but I think they have a baby together, and he didn't want to pay anything for it, something like that. I don't know. Doesn't seem like the greatest guy. I'll say that. Um, and I can go right into our next one.
yeah.
Giants running back Cam Skattebo was asked if CTE was real during a recent podcast appearance, and I watched the clip, and he just said, "No, it's an excuse." That was the direct quote. No, it's an excuse, and he was referring to CTE and also asthma. He was asked about both of those things. Um, Considering that his nickname may be CTE Scat momentarily, it's an interesting standpoint to have based on his playing style. He ended up releasing an apology statement shortly after. It seemed very clearly like a Giants PR thing. Like, hey, you can't be an idiot like that. You gotta put something out there now. Um, but based on what I, kind of seen of him and his kind of career, yeah, I could have guessed that that was his thought process.
I kind of had a moment when this came out where I was like, we did as like, the league really did platform a guy whose whole thing was being the frattiest possible person. Like that was the guy that we were putting the microphone in front of.
Hmm.
With respect to Cam Skattebo, this is not the most surprising story of the offseason.
Right.
Um, and I think that I think it's just okay if I don't hear from Cam Skattebo. I don't
Yeah.
I don't think there's a moment where he's on this podcast and says, "Wait, guys, but seriously though, I want to show you some statistics," and then starts to really like elaborate on the impacts. It's interesting because when you are an athlete who is talented in any way, you are given a platform, regardless of whether you have PR training, regardless of whether you have well developed opinions on matters of the world. And so it feels almost inevitable that something like this happens. And I don't know, it kind of made me step back and say, like, we listen to a lot of what these people have to say, despite the fact that they may not be overly qualified in a lot of the domains they comment on. And I don't want to make it sound like I think I'm more qualified than Cam Skattebo to talk about CTE, but I know it's real, and I do think that's a good step. I don't know. Am I crazy, Damon, or do you resonate with that a little as well?
No, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's just weird to like it's weird because like he plays football and he plays football in a very physical way, but it's not like he's a brain scientist studying the effects of it afterward. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying that I can tell you why CT is the thing that impacts the brain, but when those studies come out with the scientists that do the studies, I'm going to say, yeah, that seems right. Instead of like, no, that can't be right. That's not real.
Yeah, it's not even like, I think he was talking about he was joking was like part of his statement.
Mhm.
Not even a good joke. I mean, like there's just nothing redeeming about this. Um
It reminds me
it's just clearly
of
dismissing.
like in the NBA, Rudy Gobert made a COVID joke. Um,
Oh yeah, I
and
remember that.
and they touched all the microphones, and then like a day later, he was the first player diagnosed with COVID, which caused the league to shut down. So it was, it was like, oh, okay, it was a joke, but like, not not great timing on that one.
Yeah. Um, I don't want bad things to happen to Cam Skattebo, but the way he plays, I it just seems like he's on a collision course with certain medical issues down the line. So,
Yeah,
um, speaking of the Giants, on a no longer really concerning ethics angle here,
yeah. It's been 3 weeks,
Giants.
so we had three players to talk about, and I think we usually have one a week at least. So this made sense.
Yeah, this is wait, hang on. This is the unrivaled 3x3 basketball unethical team of the week.
Nice. Way to get the W in there.
Um, well, it's based on these behaviors. It's more like the L. You know what I mean?
Nice,
Uh,
nice, nice.
thank,
Unethical
thanks,
ballers of
thanks.
the week, for sure.
Unethical ballers of the week. This is neither ethical nor unethical. Giants defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence requested a trade. He will not participate in offseason workout program. Pretty high level defensive tackle, and I think could fetch a pretty quality draft pick in exchange here. I want to pull up his age, but I think he's still under 30, if I'm not mistaken.
Um, yeah, maybe the Packers can trade Micah Parsons for another defensive tackle. That'd be awesome. Just keep.
Oh, that'd be genius. That would be genius. Born in 97, November 97, so I think he's 28. Um,
Younger than me.
so
You
he's
hate to
probably
see it.
still got, I think he's got 2 or 3 years of prime left.
Sexy
Um,
Daxy. Yeah, it's seems like contract stuff. They just can't agree on an extension, so
yeah.
that's
Any
the
any
deal.
team you think could be a fit for this? Any team you think should make this move?
If I can remember all of these 6,000 free agency moves that happened,
Yeah.
it would be easier to remember a team that needs a defensive tackle at the moment. No idea. I have no clue. Can't even fathom a guess.
Trying to remember if the Commanders let Jonathan Allen go. Um,
They did.
yeah, he ended up in Cincinnati. So I don't know.
Hmm
I'm trying to just think of teams where I couldn't name a defensive lineman to save my life.
But
Um,
but the Commanders also signed Boye, no, Odafe. Odafe Boye.
that's right. That's right.
Who's an edge rusher, not a defensive tackle, mind you.
Yeah. And hey, now that we're talking about signings, why don't we give the fans what they want? Our five best, our five
Oh,
worst moves. This was our first show way back in the day. I think we had a lot of fun with it. So
it took
excited to bring it
7
back.
hours.
It took it took nine. This is actually still part of that show. We can't wait to release an entire NFL season's worth of content to you. In a
Jared, may I
yes.
go over my ones last season really quickly, and we can see how they aged.
Oh, that's big. Let me see if I can find mine too.
Um, here's what I'll give you. Should I do least favorite or favorite first? What do you want to hear first?
Um, I I want to hear your least favorite first.
Least favorite first. I had number five, the Bengals re-signing T. Higgins, 4 year, $115 million. I'm still okay with
Hmm.
that take. Didn't really age like anything because the Bengals season was lost. Number four, the Raiders getting Geno Smith from the Seahawks for pick 92 and then extending it for
Huge.
2 years, 85 million. Banger pick by me. WWW. Number three, I wrote the Giants QB situation because I said they drafted Jackson Dart, but then they signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. I didn't understand why they did all three of those things. Seems like they're committed to Dart, so we're not worried about that anymore. Number two, Patriots signing Stephon Diggs to a 3 year, $69 million deal. Not on the team anymore. W pig by me. Um, so I got two W's. And then my number one, whatever the Steelers are doing, is what I wrote. Aaron Rodgers. I wrote trading pick 52 for DK Metcalf and giving him a huge extension. And trading, I mentioned this, trading George Pickens to the Cowboys, who had a huge season for the Cowboys. Um, and then the Minka trade. But we'll get back to that in my favorites. But I think overall, it's like a little W probably.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say on average. Seems like you
So
have your
I'll
finger on the
take two
pulse.
and a half out of five W's for my least favorite.
Sure.
Do you got your least favorite pulled
Um,
up?
yeah, I do. It's in our main doc here. So I'd say a couple of these or I'd say I have one or two unambiguous. You know,
Hmm
let's see. Seattle signing Cooper Cup for 3 years, 45 million. That was a bust. That was a bottom five move for me. Obviously they won the Super Bowl.
Won the Super Bowl. Doesn't
Uh,
matter. Yeah.
yeah, does not matter. Falcons trading up for James Pierce Jr. The Rams are picking in the teens because of that. Um,
Well, it
I
it
feel
looked it looked bad because he was having a good season, and then he crashed his car into his girlfriend. So W for Jared. W pick
yeah, I
for
don't.
you.
I will also say, even if we just look at his season on the merits, the fact that the Falcons are still giving up what I believe is a top 15 pick
Yeah,
to
that's
the
fair.
Rams, that's still significant.
Fair, fair, fair.
Aaron Rodgers signing with the Steelers, I'd say that's a wash.
Yep.
It went it went exactly as it was meant to. Um, Jamar and T extensions for me also.
Yep.
Um, Bengals were kind of out of it from the beginning with Joey Burrow there, and then Travis Hunter trade. I think the verdict is still out, but it certainly didn't look like a home run on the field in year one.
Yeah. But luckily the Jaguars were not so horrible that they were giving up an insane pick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to do it at least. My favorites from last year. I got some good ones here. The Commanders getting Debo for pick 147 and Laramie Tunzel for picks 128. I'm sorry, Laramie Tunzel and pick 128 for pick 79, 236. Those both look like great moves for the Commanders last year, so I'm taking that as a W. Lions getting DJ Reed, Devontae Maddox. DJ Reed was mostly injured. Don't even remember if I saw Devontae Maddox. He really only came in when other guys were injured. So,
Avante Maddox just re-signed with us today,
yes,
actually, and
yes, I
I
saw
actually think
that.
he was solid. I think a lot of fans and fan
I
websites were
I
saying he was.
can't take a W there though. That doesn't feel like
That's
the
fair.
the impactful move that I thought. Same thing with the Ravens signing DeAndre Hopkins, Jair Alexander, who didn't last very long, and Chidobe Awuzie. I like Chidobe Awuzie, but the other two I don't think really made a big impact. Okay, okay. My top two moves are tough. They're very tough. The Jets signing Justin Fields, 2-year, $40 million deal. Ouch. Didn't age well. He's not even on the team anymore. Dolphins acquiring Minka and a fifth round pick for Jalen Jonnu Smith and a 2027 seventh round pick. Not on the team anymore. Oh, those are both tough. Those are both tough for me. I only have one W in the win column, and it was my number five pick.
Yeah, that's
Ouch.
it's tough. I will say I do think I have two clean dubs,
Yeah,
and
let's hear it.
a couple others we could debate. I also had the Justin Fields signing, obvious L. Um, I had Mike Vrabel's hire by New England, which
W. They went to the Super
big dub,
Bowl.
big dub. I was back in the Patriots a little bit going into the season. That paid off.
Yeah.
I had Ronnie Stanley 3 years, 60 million, and I just Googled what team that was for. That was for the Ravens.
You said, wait, who? Who is this?
I remembered that he was a Raven, but I couldn't remember if it was a re-signing or someone else
Yeah,
signed him.
yeah.
I guess the fact I don't know. I think that's like memory hold. The Max Crosby re-signing. The Raiders were terrible, so who cares?
And then they
But the
tried to
Bears
trade
trading
him.
for yeah, and then the whole that was a mess. But the Bears trading for Joe Tooney with in exchange for a fourth and Jonah Jackson in exchange for a sixth. I think the season the Bears had
W.
and the credit
That's a
the offensive
W.
line got for that was a W. So I
Yeah.
think two really solid W's there. So no doubters. And then the only I would say obvious miss was the one we shared with the field signing.
It's okay because this year we have 20 for 20 W's lined up. So we
Oh, this is gonna be rock
where
solid.
do we start? I guess let's start again with least favorite. Do you want a snake? What do you want to do here?
I kind of feel like we should do like one least favorite, one favorite. I don't know, maybe
Oh,
go like so we have our
five
most
from
extreme pick
five
at
to
the
yeah.
end.
Oh, okay, okay. I like it. I like it. Let's do it.
I haven't tiered them, but I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Um
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I was just kind of shuffling the order as it really was like, how strongly do I feel about this? Yeah, okay, I'll put that higher than that. And then, just comparing them either or. Do you want me to start with my number five for one of them?
please.
Which one? We doing least favorites first again?
Yeah, let's start with the least favorite.
All right, my number five least favorite deal, and Jared and I were talking before the show about this. It was harder for both of us, I think, to find deals we didn't like more than deals we did like. So for number five, I have a 1-year deal because I don't think it will affect this team long term. However, I think this team did not have a ton of salary cap to use because they are a good team, and they used it on a player that I think holds more name value than actual skill on the field. And that is the Eagles signing cornerback Reek Woolen. 1 year, $12 million deal, fully guaranteed up to $15 or $15 million with incentives. I think Reek Woolen looked pretty not washed, I guess I will say, not disrespectfully. He just didn't look like I think when you hear Tariq Woolen or Reek Woolen, the name value, I just don't think it's really there anymore. And I think a team like the Eagles, who clearly wants to contend, doesn't have a ton of salary cap to spend to fill in the edges on their team. I feel like we just could have gone elsewhere with maybe lesser name value, more skill on the field, two or three players instead of this one player, or maybe even a player of the same $12 million guaranteed cap that I think would have more impact. And I think with Quinion Mitchell, with Cooper DeJean, I know they lost safety Reed Blankenship. I just feel like the secondary wasn't really a part of this team I was looking at as the issue. So it just felt like a weird use of their limited spending for me to get this guy on a 1-year deal.
Um okay, that's interesting. I will have things to say about Reek Woolen in time, but I will hold on to those for now. Um should I do one of my bottom five moves?
Yeah, let's do your fifth. What's your fifth least favorite?
I'm gonna do this one because I just have a hunch that I'm wrong. but I don't like it. I think if you have been listening with any regularity, thank you. And you know that I don't believe in selling the farm for the cornerback position. And that will come up a few times. Trading big assets to get a lockdown corner feels very high risk.
Mm,
And that's exactly what the Rams did this offseason. And they sent significant capital. They sent back of I believe they had the 30th overall pick. They sent that to Kansas City along with a fifth rounder and sixth rounder this year, a 2027 third rounder next year, and then turned around and gave him a 4 year, $124 million deal with the Chiefs to get Trent McDuffie. I just don't believe in investing that much draft capital and cash in a position that I feel like unless you are one of the true, if you're not a top three corner, I am skeptical that you will maintain your level of play year to year. I think there is a short list of guys. Pat Surtain is maybe one of them. Um, I am just having a total blank on
Stingley,
the player out of Houston. Stingley,
Stingley.
thank you, Derek
Yeah,
Stingley. Stingley's one of
I
them.
knew who you were thinking
Um,
of.
yeah, you did. No, that was thank you. I was like, he was like the number two pick. Yes, Stingley and Sertan. I don't know how much longer the list gets than that. I think that of guys who I'd be like, yeah, I feel comfortable saying that guy's going to be it year over year,
Yeah,
especially when that player, those two players, both re-signed with the teams that drafted them, and likely had a very clear vision for how they wanted to use those players, even if there was some regime change involved. So I just think that this is a massive swing. It's a huge chunk of your cap to give up 30 million a year for corner. Now, granted, I think it's an extension. I believe he's only 10 million against the cap this year, which maybe that's the thinking is like we're just going to get what we can out of him this year and then we're going to figure it out down the line. But I don't know. I found this one to be a move that I'm sure the Rams are right and I'm stupid and this will look great. Um, but it just is not a move I would make as a GM. So low on the list for me.
yeah. I mean, it feels weird for a team like the Rams to go out and make a big trade like this because this, at least when I watched them, this didn't feel like an obvious hole. It didn't feel like their corner room was like the clearly weakest point on their team. And the Rams were a game away from, I think, winning the Super Bowl because I think they were more talented than the Patriots. So if they managed to beat the Seahawks, there's the Super Bowl. And a team this good with this many high level players, expensive players, doesn't have that many like moves available to make. So trading all the capital for this, it feels like a misallocation of assets for sure. Not that I hate the player or that I think he's going to not fit for them or anything like that. I think he'll be fine. It's a weird choice that that's the direction they went in, and it seems like that's kind of where you were getting at too.
Yeah, I think it was I understand the Rams are in an all-in mode. They then also went out and gave a sizable contract to his running mate Jalen Watson, Kansas City. I don't think that in 2 years the team is significantly better for having added Trent McDuffie. Because I think unless you are a true one of one shutdown corner, um, you don't quite have that much of a pull on the team. I maybe they thought we're going to recreate the Jalen Ramsey trade, but we'll see. What's a move you loved? Maybe not so much as some others, but what's a movie you really loved?
My move number five that I liked or favorited, this one comes in on my underrated radar, and that is the Titans signing wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson. 4 years, 78 million. 38 million guaranteed. Now, 78 million sounds like a lot, but when you look at the wide receiver contracts in the NFL, it's not that much. Um, I think Wan'Dale Robinson is underrated as a one of those like this is a guy that will secure you the first down. You throw him the 10-yard route, he will make the possession, he will get down, he will do what he needs to do. Fundamentals, etc., etc. He's not flashy, he's not Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase that's going to go up one-handed over the top, insane plays. He's not a big red zone target, but he can be a chain mover, and I think that's exactly what Cam Ward needs. That receiving room last year was pretty depleted with an unhealthy Calvin Ridley for much of the year. Chimere DK had a great rookie season, but ultimately he's not this kind of possessions downs eating receiver that I think you might want, like a safety valve type receiver for your quarterback. And their tight end room is like not great. They lost Chigakonkwo, for example. So like I just feel like he needs kind of a guy that he can reliably get to kind of help his development. And I think Wandale is kind of a sneaky signing for that and will help him with that. Because like I even like Alec Aomanor in that receiving room too. But those are all young developing guys too. Wandale can kind of come in and just be a sure thing, which I think is good.
But what does this mean for Xavier Restrepo? Yeah, I think this is I think you make a good point. I wasn't super familiar with Wandale's game, so I didn't want to comment too much on my own end, but I do think that if he is, as you say, one of those solid possession guys, I feel like this is the kind of player that, as a fan, I really hate to be playing against because when you have the kind of receiver who is fundamentally capable enough, especially when the play breaks down, to just kind of always be available and in the right spot to move the chains. I think particularly when you look at the profile of Cam Ward, of someone who, maybe is going to be a little bit more of an athlete at quarterback and maybe able to create outside of the pocket a little bit potentially. It's useful to have someone who is kind of able to be a steadying presence. So yeah, I it wasn't in my top five, but I certainly think of the wide receiver signings, I think they had so little at the position also that
Yeah.
I can't blame them for it.
Let me give you
I
this stat,
Yeah,
or this trivia rather. Guess over the last 2 years per year or total, however you want to do it, the targets and receptions that Wandale has received.
combined over the last 2 years,
Yeah, you could do it combined. You could do it per year. The year they're like pretty much the same for both years. So
59 catches for 753 yards for each year.
okay,
That's my
okay.
ballpark.
Targets, yeah, targets
Oh,
estimate.
65.
Okay. In both 2024 and 2025, he had 140 targets.
Oh my God.
Um,
Wow.
each. And he had 93 catches in 2024 and 92 catches in 2025. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so yards, he only had 699 in 2024. He cleared the 1,000 yard mark this past season. So he's an innings eater. He'll get out there and take that 8 yard out route, you know. So I think that'll be good. I should have mentioned also, I
Yeah.
didn't have the McDuffie move on my list, but I did think about it because it is a lot of assets. I didn't mention that for you, but yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, I don't have these in a particular order, and I would rather knock this out now. One of my five likes was the Eagles signing Reek Woolen to a 1 year, $12 million deal. Uh,
Yeah.
here, here's why I like this deal. I agree with you that Reek Woolen is not currently an elite corner in the way that we would think about them. And you know how I feel about corners. I think that they're a very volatile position, and Reek Woolen had some high profile potential personal fouls and or that kind of thing in the playoffs as well. Wasn't necessarily the most kind of composed during those games, a bit of a hothead, and I never like to see that from a player. However, I do think that Reek Woolen is still pretty young, and I think he profiles as an elite corner at his best. And I think if you're the Eagles, you can hand out a 1 year, $8 million deal to a high floor guy who you don't expect a great year from. Or you can hand out, a 3 year, I'll give you an example. Cordell Flott, 3 year, 45 million. Alante Taylor, 3 year, $58 million contract to get pretty good cornerback play that's maybe not top of market but close. Or you meet in the middle and say, hey, we'll give $12 million to a guy who could have an absolutely explosive year for us, or he could be a dud, and we're giving him enough that he's willing to give us a try, but we're not giving up so much that it sinks our cap if he doesn't turn into that elite guy or return to that elite form. Um, and I was looking at his stats, and I don't know if it's something to do with his usage this year compared to previous years, but it seemed like he didn't have too bad of a year last year. Also, he had it looks like his lowest yards per completion of any year. Granted, he only I guess started 7 games, but I don't know. I think that there's still potentially some meat on that bone, and I'd rather take a swing and really try to fill the position with a high impact player than just go high floor and potentially limit my Super Bowl ceiling because I wanted to be conservative on it. I don't know.
No, that's fair. I mean, the best case scenario is certainly there, and I can see the picture of that. I think I'm just thinking this in my head seems more like a CJ Gardner Johnson, a Jair Alexander, like a guy that's just going to be unhappy with maybe his utilization or something like that, which the Eagles have had both of those players in their roster in the last year, and both not on the roster anymore. So,
Yeah, that's a fair point. CJ Gardner Johnson signing with the Bills, by the way.
yeah,
Really excited to see that train roll along.
over under six
You make
games, we'll see.
over under 6 games total, or I'll say over under six teams
With the
on the year.
Bills.
Um,
Yeah.
with the Bills, yeah. Uh, no, I think you make a fair point. I just, for someone of that name recognition, I guess I was a little bit surprised that maybe it would have been a mistake. If this was like a 3 year, $60 million deal, I probably would have had it in the Bad News Bears. But
Yeah.
1 for 12, not the worst thing I've ever seen. Either way, we'll get to know by season's end who was the fool and who was the king on that situation.
One
What's your
of us
next?
guaranteed W at some point, maybe. Unless it's just like a mid-season, then I guess it's not. But
Yeah.
um my next dislike, my number four dislike. This is again, the dislikes were hard. They were hard to come by. How about I mentioned this is great because I mentioned the Wandale Robinson. I feel like it's really good for the development of Cam Ward. Let's talk about the exact opposite effect for what we all think is going to be Fernando Mendoza in the Raiders uh, outfit, spending $35 million. Do you know who they signed in their receiver room for $35 million for 3 years? Does a name even come to
Oh,
your mind?
I feel like I remember that, but I can't remember who it was.
I'll
I
tell you it was a third string Vikings receiver. In my
Oh,
memory, I
hang
don't know if he
on.
was on another team as well, but I think it
No,
was just
no, no,
Vikings.
no. I mean, I know it's not. Is it like Jalen Tolbert
Oh, you're so
or
close.
something?
You got the first name, Jalen Naylor. Um,
Woof, 35. Oh
35
boy,
million for
that's
3 years of Jalen Naylor, baby. Fernando Mendoza, come on in. We got your receiving room. We got this guy. We got Trey Tucker still here, I think. And nobody else. So it's just I will say this: it's not the last time I'm going to mention the Raiders today. But this just seems like why did we do that? Like he hasn't proven anything to me. I don't know if they've watched him film and they've seen something where they think he can really be something. He's still pretty young, so there is a developmental aspect. But I really, like I said, I really liked what the Titans did with Wandale and giving their young quarterback something to rely on. And you can argue Mendoza's going to have that with Brock Bowers. Um, but man, there's the receiving room leaves a lot to be desired over there. Doesn't have a lot of weapons coming into the league.
I like the thought that at the combine they met with him and said like, "Hey, obviously we're going to take you. So like, who's a player you're going to want to throw the ball to? We can go after in free agency." And Fernando Mendoza's like, "Jalen Naylor, that's my guy."
I like
Uh,
that guy a lot.
yeah. No, I think that's a good call. I mean, that feels like a classic overpaying on potential. I mean, on the one hand, if he's your number two receiver, he's a bargain, and I suppose Rashid Shaheed got similar money, but I don't think he
Time
has as much upside. So
it's time for a quiz. Time for a quiz. How many
yeah.
Jalen Naylor has played 4 years in the NFL, all in the Vikings, by the way, so I was right about that. How many
Mm.
targets, catches, yards does he have in all 4 years combined?
I'll say he has 102 catches
Okay.
on 168 targets, and he has 1,536 yards.
All right. He has 69 catches on
Yikes.
14 targets, 1,066 yards total. Um, so pretty much Wandale's numbers from last year, but worse. So that's good.
Epic, dude.
And about
Epic.
half, now granted, about half of Wandale's salary. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like a move that makes sense to me.
Wait, you said 3 years, 35, right? So that's 11 and 2/3 a year. And
Wandale's 4
what
years,
was
78. So
Wandale making? 4 for 80? Yeah, I guess it's about half of his salary, but sounds like about a quarter of the player based on the statistics. So,
right.
um, it's it's underwhelming. Um,
Yep.
listen, I want to stay on the cornerbacks. Okay.
Okay, let's
This is
hear
my
it.
last one. I'll be done. The Tennessee Titans opted to attempt to rebuild their cornerback room a number of years ago by doing what the Rams did, except trading for L'Jarius Sneed.
Yep.
They kind of tried to build their cornerback room outside their own team. I can't remember who his running mate was, but I'm pretty confident
No,
he's not
no
with
one
the team
memorable.
anymore. That went up in smoke.
Yep.
So this offseason, they have rerun that with prediction you made, I believe. Alante Taylor getting 3 years, 58 million.
Like
Cordell
last podcast,
Flott,
I said that.
yeah. Like I think last podcast, I think Alante Taylor to the Titans was one of your picks.
Let me go. Let me go
And
look.
Cordell Flott, 3 years, 45. Let me see where Cordell Flott came from because he was a Giant. Um,
I said Marshawn
okay,
Lattimore to
so
the Titans. I
you
did. I
said
didn't. I
Lattimore.
didn't have Alante Taylor in my bag. There's just no way.
Hey, I will say Alante Taylor, former Saint, Marshawn Lattimore, also a former Saint.
Mm,
So,
big.
not the worst thing I've ever said. I think that this is just a case of okay, we're now dedicating 30 million plus,
Hmm.
granted on two cornerback spots, but I maybe it's being a fan of the Lions and seeing them continually try to sign outside corners to be that guy and seeing it not happen. DJ Reed, I'll say the jury's out because of the injuries, but Cam Sutton had off the field problems. We moved on from um, Carlton Davis, who had a pretty good season with New England, but I don't know, maybe I've just got a bias, but I feel like it's hard to rebuild your secondary from the outside in, and this seems like a big gamble when it's a position where the Titans using that money could go for some more surefire. There's I feel like there's positions in free agency where it's easier to gauge whether a player will have concrete value than cornerback, and the Titans just need guys who can play American football. So it's great if they solve their corner problem, but I'm really skeptical that this is the right way to do it. Even if you solve one of these spots with one of these players, the other one is at least 15 million against your cap, and you still need to draft someone probably in the third round or higher to solve the problem. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the Titans need a lot, so it's hard to evaluate exactly how to do that. I think it's hard when I think about the Titans. I think about who wants to play there. Like, how are you going to get people to go? And I feel like the only way is to pay them a lot of money. So, I don't know what the other options were, but yeah, if there's other clear holes in their lineup, and it's like, wow, we should have spent our cap there. Like, how is their offensive line looking? I couldn't tell you. Um, but I understand that spending big at corner is not going to solve your team, for sure.
All right,
Ugh.
let's bring some positivity back.
Positivity.
After I've yeah, what you got? What you got?
I'll say to my previous point, this is a team spinning big because I don't know if otherwise they get this level of player. And I'm going to name two players. It's a combo deal. And I just like you did, but I don't know. One of them I'm like it's a lot of money, and one of them I actually predicted. So fire. Um, the Panthers. They signed Jalen Phillips, 4 years, $120 million is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Talented edge rusher. They needed an edge rusher. I predicted an edge rusher goes there. I predicted not him. I predicted somebody else. Actually, no, I didn't because I predicted the next guy to go there instead, which was linebacker Devin Lloyd, $45 million. 25 guaranteed. Ding, ding, ding. That's a prediction right for me. I think I mentioned this aside from, Derek Brown and J.C. Horn, they didn't have any notable defensive players, and I think they needed notable defensive players because I think that Bryce Young, Tyrone McMillan, um, so on and so forth, Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle last year is not there anymore. They were getting them to the right place on offense. I think people started seeing that in the second half of the year, but their defense needs to not give up 100 points in order for their offense to matter. So getting some real playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, which both of these players were at points last year, both Devin Lloyd and Jalen Phillips, I think is going to matter. And I know $120 million is a lot, and it's a premier edge rusher. Um, but how else were they going to get one? Is kind of the mindset for a team like the Panthers, I think, because I don't think people are like, let's go play for the Panthers. That sounds awesome. So I don't mind the expenditure if it's going to mean their defense is meaningfully better and can, not constantly, or I was going to say not constantly get their offense on the field, but it's the opposite. If their defense is getting scored on all the time, their offense will be on the field less. So now their offense will hopefully be on the field more and be able to establish more rhythm and consistency. Blah 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 blah. Basically, they got two impactful defenders, and I like that.
Um, yeah, I liked the Devin Lloyd signing. I'm gonna save my thoughts on the Jalen Phillips
Yeah, it's a
signing
lot.
for later, but
It's a lot.
I think Devin Lloyd is kind of a top. I would say he's probably a top 10 linebacker. At least last year, that was his performance. So,
Yeah, it's mostly Devin Lloyd
I
I'm excited about because I predicted it.
yeah, I think that that is 100%, 100% valid. But yes, I will be coming back to Jalen Phillips in short order.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna do something you don't like, if that's okay. I'm
Okay.
afraid I'm gonna praise the Chiefs. I hate to do it.
Yeah.
Um, they gave Tyquan Thornton a 2-year, $11 million deal. Now,
Mm,
this is a guy who career has under 1,000 receiving yards. He's 800 yards,
mm,
820 yards. In 42 games played, only 58 receptions. But last year, in 14 games played, he had 19 receptions on 37 targets for 430 yards. He averaged 23 yards a reception. And I like that his best year was his most recent year compared to, betting on a guy who was good in 24 and had a down year in 25.
hmm
And in the absence of Rashee Rice and, Xavier Worthy not quite being him yet, and I think also being out for a period of time, I remember watching those games and at least the announcers really glazing Tyquan Thornton as, this deep release valve for Patrick Mahomes. And I feel like $5.5 million is an appropriate gamble on a wide receiver who showed promise and had a role in your system and could at best maybe be what the Rams thought they were putting in their offense with Tutu Atwell, as someone who's like a pure deep guy who's really good at just trying to attack those jump balls down the field, giving a dimension to your offense that you wouldn't have without him at a price tag where, if you cut him after this year or you cut him midway through the year, you're not, crying into your cereal about it. But I just think that there's a little more upside than giving, say, $10 million a year to a guy like Jalen Naylor. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think that they know what they have in him, and there's some real chemistry between him and Mahomes. And if you spend a full offseason really trying to integrate him into the offense, is this an offense that can unlock him in the way that New England failed to? I think it could be interesting. So this felt like the right amount of risk for a player with the right amount of upside and the kind of free agent deal that I would much rather my team make than, one of these 4 or 5 year triple figure deals.
Yeah. Honestly, not familiar enough with this game to have like a huge insight either way, but definitely like not overpaying for sure. I'm gonna rescind pick number four from me. I'm gonna take the Jalen Phillips part completely out. I just want to focus on Devin Lloyd. No more Jalen Phillips. Sorry, Jalen Phillips. I don't like you that much.
There will be
Um,
more Jalen Phillips, but just
there
not in the
will
same
be,
section, I think.
but not me liking it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think when I wrote it, I was like, Devin Lloyd can't fill a spot by himself, so I need to add somebody else.
Right, right, right.
That was
I
kind
mean,
of
I
my
gave
mindset.
Tyquan Thornton a spot, so you can
Now, yeah,
really,
now you did Taekwondo,
yeah,
and I'm like, oh,
you can make
I'm
any
taking Jalen out. I'm taking Jalen out. It's just Devin, just Devin. Um,
just
because
Devin. Yeah. All right,
because some of the
what's your
other
number three least favorite?
here it is. Number three, least favorite, the Texans trading for David Montgomery. Excuse me.
Wow.
So they gave up offensive lineman Juice Scruggs, 2026 fourth round pick, 2027 seventh round pick for Montgomery, who I love, of course, as a Lions fan. David Montgomery is 28 years old. For running backs, that's pretty old. Granted, the last couple of years he hasn't been utilized as much, so he may have not aged as a normal 28-year-old running back, with being kind of the backup to Jahmyr Gibbs mostly these past couple of seasons. But this is a team that signed Joe Mixon, kind of had a freak injury. Now he's not on the team anymore. Tried to get Nick Chubb coming off of a freak injury. Didn't really work out. Seemed like they kind of had a steal in the draft with Woody Marks. He seemed to work out pretty well for them last year, I would say, based on where they picked him. And if
Not
you
for
don't
my
think,
fantasy team, but
yeah, he didn't always get properly utilized with Nick Chubb there, but when he was on the field, he was doing all right. Um, and I think maybe you just need a 1B or a 1A to kind of supplement him. And then you have like a fine running back by committee situation going on. I just think trading an offensive lineman and two first round, or not, sorry, not two first round picks, is insane. Two draft picks um, for a running back that's older when you could use one of the draft picks to get a lesser running back, or you could just sign a lesser running back. Um, and the primary issue with this team, based on my observations last year, was mostly their offensive line. And they traded an offensive lineman and picks they could have used for more offensive linemen. And they didn't sign a ton of offensive linemen. They signed a couple, but not a ton. To get a running game when that does that, like, to me, when I watched the Texans last year, that was not the issue. I had never watched them and I was like, oh, if only this team had a solid running game. It was their whole offense was a problem because their line struggled. CJ Stroud struggled. The receivers were unhealthy a lot of the time. David Montgomery is not like, here's the magical solution to your offensive woes from last season. So that's why this trade didn't make sense to me and why it lands in my dislikes here because it just seemed like a trade this team didn't need to make for a position that didn't stick out as a primary need in my eyes.
yeah, I like that you brought this one up. Sorry to step on you with the Woody Marks thing. I
No,
mostly
you're
just
good.
wanted to my only experience with him was mild disappointment.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I think that I think you make a great point when I read that we had traded Montgomery away, the Lions. I was shocked at how much we got in return for a running back. And that's not slander at all on Montgomery. I think Montgomery's good. I think you could, a lot of people would probably argue he's been so overshadowed by Gibbs that a lot of people are missing his kind of value.
For sure.
And, maybe he is a true running back. Well, I actually think, if Houston had just signed him as a free agent, I would say, wow, that what a great move for them because I think
Right.
he can be a great complement to what Woody Marks brings. Um, and do more than what Nick Chubb could offer by far last year. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a winning concept. But to give away, even if you'd given up on Juice Scruggs, a fourth and a seventh and a player of probably non-zero value for a running back, and then they gave him a raise. I mean, I think that they made a really big push capital wise for someone who I do think can be a difference maker in every offense in the NFL, and I do think will be a difference maker for Houston. But you're right, is the difference between David Montgomery so wide between the running back they could have signed in free agency or drafted with, say, a fourth round pick at the back of the fourth round that you are, no sweat. This was absolutely the right move to make. I don't know. I think if the Texans had lost in the AFC Championship game and it was clear and obvious the only thing they were missing was running back, fine, overpay a little for a guy who you think can be the difference for 2 years. But yeah, this one was a head scratcher. I thought the Lions kind of won this one pretty clearly. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Shout out Monty.
No, great player, all timer. I'm trying to see. I've got my Monday Night Football poster that they gave out at the game was David Montgomery. So
Excited
he is
to
beloved
see
in
him
our.
in the red Texan helmet. That'll be sick.
He looks like a Texans player. I can see it. But yeah, he wanted to be a Texan, so good for him that he was able to link up with them. But
Yeah.
they gave up a lot. I will now say one of yours, but the
Yeah.
opposite again for my number three here.
No, it was
Jalen Phillips,
rescinded. It was rescinded. I rescinded
your former, your former,
it.
your former number four. I will go here with. I have two. I had to package Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips, 4 years, 120 million,
Yeah.
and Boye Mafe to
Yeah.
the Bengals from the Seahawks, 3 years, 60 million. I think that this is the archetypal deal that you regret in free agency. And this was just going to be Boye Mafe because they're giving 20 million a year. I guess he's listed as a linebacker, which is different from a defensive end, different expectations from a defensive end. This is a guy getting $1 million per year per sack in his career, right? 20 sacks over the first 4 years. And yes, to his credit, he had 9 sacks in 2023, 6 in 2024. I just, this feels like you're paying for the idea of a good edge rusher. And then I wanted to protect the Panthers. They're a bit of a pet thing for me. I like my
Yeah.
Panthers, but dude, I do among edge rushers, and granted, this excludes guys like Josh Hines Allen, who are considered linebackers, so I'll
Hmm.
give that up. You know where Jalen Phillips is ranked amongst edges in contract value? Like what
Oh, he
his per year.
he he has to be like three. He has to be like really high.
He's not quite that high. He's eight. But the guys in front of him are pretty much all no doubters, right?
Yeah.
Micah Parsons, Aiden Hutchinson, TJ Watt, Daniil Hunter got that huge 40 million
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Miles Garrett, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, and then Jalen Phillips.
Yeah.
And can you guess what former number one overall pick who just got extended is right behind him, by the way?
Yeah. What's his name? Jaguars guy. Trayvon,
Yeah.
something like that.
Travon
Walker?
Walker. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Travon Walker. Yep. And then actually none of the linebackers have a $30 million. Even Josh Hines Allen is making less per year than Jalen Phillips currently, which just
Positional
feels.
value in football is silly business.
So this is the funny thing is I'm on the linebacker page and it lists his contract on Spotrac, Spotrac, whatever. I
Yeah.
click in and it says Josh Hines Allen, defensive end. I don't really understand this. Um, Jalen Phillips just hasn't produced at that level. I think the trade market for him was exciting and that got a lot of discussion flowing last year. But I feel like the Panthers are suckering themselves. I mean, 28 sacks in 63 career games is very good, and I'll give him credit for that. That's over 5 seasons. His season high for sacks though is actually only 8.5, and that was his rookie year.
Hmm.
So I mean I don't know. I just feel like you took Boye Mafe's stats and then added an 8 sack year at the beginning of his career.
And doubled
This
the
just feels like
salary.
flawed thinking to me. And doubled the shot. I mean, I just don't understand. I think that these teams think that the only way they're going to get a $30 million edge rusher is if they pay someone to be a $30 million edge rusher. So they give $30 million to an $18 million a year edge rusher and then say they have it. It's just an overpay. There's no other way around it. And if Jalen Phillips had a 10 sack season all 4 years of this deal, maybe he lives up to that. Um, Bill Barnwell did a great article talking about free agency signings as like value versus expectation. And the
Hmm.
expectation for Jalen Phillips at 4 years, 120 is he has to be very good. He has to play like top 15 edge rusher for this to be worthwhile. And he hasn't. And Boye Mafe, like a top 25 edge rusher, and he hasn't played that way. Um, just feels mistaken to me.
Yeah. No, I
That's all
hear
I
you.
got.
Yeah.
Sorry, abrupt ending, but
No, because I was thinking like, why did I have Jalen Phillipson again? I also had a player that I had at my number four spot that I removed because I wasn't actually sure how I felt about the positional value. So then I was trying to plug in last minute and ended up being Devin Lloyd and Jalen Phillips. And then I was like, actually, it's just Devin Lloyd. But yeah, edge rusher positionally, when I looked at the number, I was like, I don't think I know enough about this player to say he's worth $120 million. Or whatever it is. So it's an insane deal for sure, and I think that he definitely has a big thing to live up to it. My spin on it when I had it in my positives was like, how else do you get the player aside from spending a lot of money when there's and if this is their free agency and that's the guy that they could get, and he was going to sign a $90 million deal with another team, and they were like, well, we have to get him over here, and that was the only way to do it. I can see why it happened. And, is there another guy that's going to come across their free agency in the next 4 year time period? I don't know. But now they have a guy and hopefully he pans out. But yeah, definitely could be an overpay for sure.
yes, yes. But enough of my being upset about large contracts. I'll get to that again shortly. What's a movie you liked?
Let me talk about some large contracts that I like. um,
Okay, okay.
Now, is it the contracts that I like? Not really. It's the fact that the team is trying. That's what that's what I like. Because last year this team took some directions that I didn't like, and boy was I right with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll. But man, we've taken a direction that I think it makes sense at least, even if the numbers are, making me want to tug my collar a little bit. And that's the Raiders, of course, who I'm alluding to. So let's start out. Center Tyler Linderbaum. Oh, brother, 3 years, $81 million for a center. My eyes are popping out of my head like a Looney Tunes cartoon. Um, but he's like a top three, five something center probably. And you're drafting a quarterback, the number one overall pick, and your offensive line was horrendous last year. Okay, I get it. Like I get it. You're trying to protect your young guy that you're gonna get. That's nice. Um, they signed Kirk Cousins to a $20 million guaranteed deal this year. When you look at the deal on paper, it's like 3 years, 80 million or something insane like that. But basically, years 2 and 3 are optional, and they're probably going to decline it. It's really the first year that's guaranteed for 20 million that really matters. So, assuming that's what happens, assuming it's 1 year, 20 million, 1 year rental of Kirk Cousins to mentor Fernando Mendoza. Okay, I can get behind that. I can get behind that idea. If that's what he's going to do is just be there to kind of be a a voice in his ear telling him how to do it. I can live with that for 1 year, especially because this deal just happened like a day or two ago, and that means that all the notable free agents are pretty much already signed. We have a year of salary cap we can dole out to QB mentor. Okay, I'm okay with that. And then some other deals I liked that I mentioned: linebacker Nakobe Dean, 3 years, 36 million, 20 mil is guaranteed, and linebacker Quay Walker, 3 years, 40.5 million, 28 million guaranteed. Um, Relatively, sizable contracts for the linebacker position, but the defense was also horrendous last year. So get some guys in there that when I watch the Eagles, I feel like I watch Nakobe Dean make a difference, and I feel like Quay Walker has that name value that the play kind of lives up to. So I like that they're trying to get guys to fill in clear holes in their lineup. Granted, some of them may be expensive holes, but I like the direction they're going in at the very least. So that's why I put them at number three on my list.
Okay. I looked up the contract that Kirk Cousins has on the surface here.
Yeah,
And apparently it's really like a 1 year, 20 million deal, like you said, but the cap hit is like somehow spread over 2 years and like they trim 10 million off the cap. They're doing some weird circumvention stuff, but
yeah,
the deal technically is a 5 year, $172 million deal, which is really funny.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. If that was the deal, that would not be that's not making the
no, no, no,
list.
no. They're like, we saw what the Falcons did and we loved it. Crazy stuff. All right. For my number three, here's a question for you.
Are we coming back to the
How
Raiders at
much?
all, or do you have thoughts
Oh,
on
we're
it?
coming back to the Raiders,
Okay.
just not right now. Just
Okay.
not right now.
In the dislike section. Got it.
Maybe. Maybe. I don't think Kirk is a bad call for a mentor. I'll speak to that. I think
Sure.
that I in general think that overpaying in free agency is a destructive strategy. I don't care how much cap space you have. Which is why I can't necessarily sign off on the like bill they ran up per se. But you get a guy who's been around the block, really veteran guy, and I think Kirk is very milk toast, and it seems like Mendoza might also be kind of like a golly G type of guy. So maybe they would have like particular chemistry. Um, Kirk just did this with Michael Penix. So I think that part of it I think is perfectly valid. I want to talk about Tyler Linderbaum at another point.
Yeah.
Um, Here's a question for you. What is the average contract value? I'm going to throw out this first name,
Oh goodness.
Calvin Ridley. How much is Calvin Ridley making per year?
Oh God, I have no idea. I'm gonna say like 13 million. That's way under.
That is way under.
Yeah. I said it and
23.
I was like so wrong.
$23 million a year.
Yeah.
How much money is I'm going to save the shocking one for last because this blew my mind. How much is Terry McLaurin making?
He's making a lot. He's making like let me do the math in my head. He's making like let's say like 29.
Making 32.3
I
million
was I was
per
thinking
year.
32 and I thought it was too high. Yeah, yeah,
This is a 92-89 situation.
yeah. Yep, yep,
For this
yep. That
for
is what
this game.
happened.
Uh,
It was
and
actually
then
the
this
same
this is one
exact
more.
unit too. The 2 to the 9 is the drop that I made in my
Exactly.
head.
Yeah. It's crazy. Um, I and this last one I'll say is lower than Terry McLaurin. I'm
Yeah.
not going in ascending order here per se. How much is DJ Moore making on DJ Moore's current contract
Oh geez.
per year?
I remember it was a big deal when it came out. I'll say like 26.
27.5
Yeah.
for DJ Moore.
Yeah.
All of those players, I would say. So the reason I bring up Terry McLaurin is I think Terry McLaurin is a very talented receiver, but of the top 20 receivers in pay, Calvin Ridley is also 29, but like
Hmm.
the top 20 or so, he's the oldest by far. Good
Hmm.
player. By the end of that contract, he will probably be kind of at the tail end of his career, right? For being realistic. DJ Moore obviously has not necessarily been the number one in Chicago, now traded to Buffalo. And Calvin Ridley has not really lived up to the billing of a number one receiver. Some other guys in this range, I like Jamison Williams, but he is a number two receiver on the Lions currently, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so the Cowboys, can't believe I'm praising the Cowboys. And giving George Pickens the franchise tag, they're paying 27.3 million,
Yeah.
less than DJ Moore, for a receiver who was arguably top five last year and at worst comfortably top 10. And going rate for that guy is typically 5 to 6 million more. And he's a guy who's had some character concerns. I just think they're using the franchise tag really well in this
Mm.
particular case. I think he's a great candidate. And it's not a case where you're overpaying for a maybe guy. You're actually getting a haircut on a guy who you really like. And honestly, even if the second franchise tag goes up $6 or $7 million, it's still going to mature as a deal that's roughly appropriate for someone of his talent. And you don't necessarily have to dole out the long term money if you don't feel comfortable doing it for a guy who's 24 years old, right? I just
Mm.
feel like you are, if I said, hey, one of the 10 best receivers who's only 24, probably will turn 25 before the season, if I had to guess, is making under 28 million, and Alec Pierce is making more than him, I would feel pretty good about that as a team. So don't know why I
Yeah.
was so dramatic on the build up for this, but I was just really surprised at how affordable the tag managed to be for a player who I think is clearly above the tag value in talent. So
Yeah,
I
I have
think
a
it's good for the Cowboys.
dramatic receiver related build up later, so I'm gonna need you to make sure that document is not open when we do that.
All right,
Um,
I will click into a different position group right now.
no, it's funny because we've been kind of going back and forth opposite. I had thought of putting George Pickens in my dislike section, merely because I didn't like that they couldn't work out a long-term solution. Now, maybe the franchise tag is a temporary fix and then a long-term deal comes next season. And if that's the case, great. Then you use the franchise tag to your benefit. I just worry that the franchise tag becomes a one-year rental and then he has another good season and goes elsewhere in free agency. But if that doesn't happen, that's fine. And I think, yeah, I mean, in terms of where he's at and how much the franchise tag he's getting, I think it's great value for sure. I totally agree with you there. Um, I'm not, overly. You're more familiar with how franchise tagging works for players. In the long term, I just worried that because he's been tagged, now maybe doesn't want to be there long term at the end of the season. Who knows? Um, that's my only worry.
Yeah, I was actually reading that since 2015, none of the players that Dallas has tagged have signed a long-term extension like before going into the season and have
Hmm.
played on the tag. So, um, that doesn't mean they won't get another contract. And I share your concern that if he balls out and then walks, that's pretty miserable. If he turns into a pain in the locker room, though, you feel better about this being a rental. So I totally see your point too. I think it was a tough contract situation to navigate.
Yeah.
What's your number two worst pick? I
Us.
realizing that we have luxuriated in this activity. So
Oh, we're having fun. Hey, it's been a while. We had to get back into it. Um,
that's true. It's 3 weeks worth of content. Here we go.
right. Uh, yeah, I should say too, like, you know, to your credit, should the Cowboys be negotiating long-term uh receiver deals when the defense is clearly the issue? Maybe not. Um, so I have at number two a team that you mentioned earlier in your likes category. I have in my dislikes category, that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Why could the Chiefs be here? Why would I bring the Chiefs up? I don't know. Is it because they re-signed a 36-year-old tight end to a 3-year deal? Yes, it is. Travis Kelsey, 3 years,
Oh God, yeah,
$54
you're right.
million. Dollars. He is just too old. 12 million in year one, and then it goes up after that. 57 million is the max worth it with incentives and such, but the base is 54.7. Just a lot of money for a tight end that has shown clear regression in past years. 36 years old. He's not, he's way out of his prime. He's gonna be 39 at the end of this contract. I get the idea of like Travis Kelsey is a Chiefs lifer. So you gotta, pay him on the way out, maybe is the idea. I feel like we could have done that in 1 year deals, and then when we see the clear it's time, then he's gone. Um, Similar to kind of how LeBron has been doing it on the tail end of his career in the NBA. He's just doing 1 year deal after 1 year deal after 1 year deal because he wants to see where he's at. What a NBA counterpart I thought of this was Klay Thompson, who was so special to the Golden State Warriors, but wanted a lot of money and was clearly not the player he used to be. So they just shipped him off to the Mavericks and said, "Yeah, go over there." And the Chiefs did the opposite. They said, "We'll actually just pay you way too much money." So I didn't like this deal at all, and I think it's too much money for a player that's clearly regressing. Granted, I know he's kind of one of the faces of the organization, but I don't think he's gonna, be worth it on the field at this point in his career.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to rank most annoying NFL players to have to think about, he's probably very close to number one for me. So when he was like, "I might retire," I was like, "Oh, great, go do your podcast with your brother and let us be." If this is a shadow 1 year, $12 million deal that they wrote this way for cap reasons or to get him some extra cash without necessarily putting it on the contract itself, I don't mind them signing a 1 year, $12 million
Sure.
deal. It's a little expensive for the player he is right now, but honestly, the tight end market, I think, is around there anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I think if there was even a part of them that was like, yeah, we're going to sign him to this deal Did you say 3 years, 54?
Yep.
Oh God, so it's 12 million in the first year, but 18 million AAV total. Yeah, I can't see them running that deal out. And if this thing even gets into like year two, it's just a mistake. Man, I don't think I fully registered how awful that sounds. Boy, oh boy, that is tough.
It's tough. It's a toughie.
Ugh, um, yeah, I'm so sick of Travis Kelce, dude. I seriously, I would pay him that much to stop playing. I'm ready to be through with the Taylor Swift stuff and the uh,
Three
your
more
English teacher and your
years.
gym teacher are getting married.
Uh, Top five
So
worst
funny.
Instagram quotes ever, or Instagram captions,
Yeah.
whatever it's called.
Yeah. I I'm sure we had at least one student in our shared past who'd be overjoyed. All right. I have a pass catcher as well.
Yep.
Um, Stefan Diggs out. Enter Romeo Dobbs. Record
Yeah,
scratch.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
I think
four
I
years.
know the number. Yeah. So I think I
Yeah.
know.
4 years, 68 million. 17 million a year. Not terrible. But being a Lions fan, I've watched the Packers really consistently, and I really can't think of a time where I've been truly intimidated by a Packers wide receiver in the last 4 years. I think that they have a great offensive mind at head coach. I think LaFleur really schemes well for them and they're ruthlessly efficient. But I feel like it's not often the wide receivers beating the defensive back so much as it is the scheme creating opportunities for their wide receivers. And so to turn around and give a guy who puts zero fear in my heart a $17 million a year contract in a scheme where, like, yes, Josh McDaniels is a very good offensive coordinator. I mean, it looks like, he's averaged, gosh, he's played in 60 games. So he's averaged like 600 yards, 700 yards a season. Is pretty good. You know, if you look at Rashid Shaheed getting about 15 million a year from Seattle to be also an elite special teamer, I don't know how much of that you're getting from Dobbs as well. I guess he did some return work for them last year in particular, but I don't know. This just felt like, Wan'Dale Robinson is a name that I've at least heard people talk about. I feel like the dialogue with Packers is always like, will one of their receivers turn it on? And the answer has consistently been no. And so for New England to give him, you know, maybe mid-tier number two money to be a guy who I don't really think about that much as a player, I don't know. It just feels like a little much for a guy. It doesn't spark a lot of feelings in me.
Yeah. It's funny. This almost ended up on my like list as well because I think when I think back to the Packers that I think he's underrated. Like he
Hmm.
feels like that kind of possession-y guy. I'm like, he's always there when you need him. Like I feel like their guys kind of come and go, but he's there usually. And he wears the Guardian cap, so shout out Guardian cap legend Romeo Dobbs.
It's
Um,
elite.
and they just have like no receivers really that matter, so that's why I was kind of okay with it. But it didn't end up making my list, but it also didn't make my dislike list because the receiver market is insane. It's like 4 years, 68 million sounds like a lot, and then you look at the receivers and you're like, oh, actually, this is pretty low on the list.
Yeah, I was thinking about Jameson Williams being a number two with like 26 million a year, and I was like, actually, I mean, 17 doesn't sound awful. I don't know. Maybe I was misguided there. I think I just I don't know. I've had an impression for a long time that I am not someone who's ever been like, oh my gosh, the Packers' weapons are going to crush us, right? Devontae Adams was different, but
Oh,
like
for sure.
since
Yeah,
since he left, it's really been more about scheme
yeah.
and efficiency than it has been about the players themselves. And so I just wonder if this is a case where he could be an underrated player or he could be getting production through the scheme and that could fall off.
That's
Um,
fair. That's very fair.
could see it going either way, but I think a fair criticism, and this is I would say in hindsight probably the softest critique here. I feel a little more secure in maybe my other four. including my number one, but not time for that number one just yet.
Can I get a position for your number one?
It'll give it away.
Okay. It's time for my number one. No,
No, it's your
my
number
number two
two
like.
positive. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't feel that strongly about this, but somehow I end up at my number two, even though I said I was really had a lot of likes to choose from. It's really not the player, it's the idea. I think that
Okay.
a lot of these it's the idea I'm noticing. It's the direction a team is taking, not necessarily what they did or how much they spent. It's like, yeah, you're going in the right direction. Um, the Bills traded a second round pick, pick number
So
60.
like this is a like. Oh my
This is a
goodness. Okay.
like. It's a like to the Bears for Mr. DJ Moore and a fifth round pick. So, why do I like it, you may ask? Basically, they're trading 100 draft positions. Pick 60 for pick 165. 105 draft positions. Um, for an established receiver that is easily the best receiver in their door since Stephon Diggs. Because I don't love Khalil Shakir. He's fine. I don't love him. Keon Coleman, whatever. And it's the idea because this is a win now team that has been a win now team that has clearly not had a number one receiver in several years. And DJ Moore, I think, had a really good year with the Bears with Justin Fields. It didn't really have a great last 2 years with Caleb Williams, but I believe in the player. I believed him at Carolina when they were just throwing guys at random quarterbacks out there or throwing the ball. They had Baker, they had Darnold, they had Andy Dalton. They just had random guys throwing the ball, and he was producing. So I believe he can produce with Josh Allen. I think he can be not maybe not he's not an elite pass catcher. He's not going to be a top 10 receiver, but I think he can be a good enough receiver one that they haven't had for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations that hasn't been able to hit the mark. I think he can fit a void for them that they've been kind of searching for since Diggs' exit. That's why it's in my likes. Not because I love DJ Moore, but I think they needed a better receiver and they got a better receiver. And maybe they shouldn't have given up a second round pick, but when you're a win now team, a second round pick doesn't really do a lot for you.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't concur, to be quite honest. I think that he was firmly, I think, behind Romo Dunze and
This
Luther
past year,
Burden
yeah, for sure.
this past year. And with those guys who put up yards with, poor quarterbacks, is it because they're the only guy? And this is a second round pick. I understand it's 100 draft positions, but a second round pick is a premium asset. And even if you say, okay, you take away the fifth, and maybe it's a third rounder, right? Maybe it's a third rounder's worth of value. We already went over his contract. I will
Yeah.
grant that he could be a wide receiver one, but I could just as easily see him not meeting expectations, right? So I don't know. I respect your optimism for them. I think that the fact that they're also in an era with a new coach now, like I know they're a win now team, but then they made a move that rebuilding teams make. It's something actually thinking a little bit about the NBA.
Mhm.
Because I don't know if you saw the Michael Malone news today.
I did.
Did I
I
break
did.
this to you?
Yeah.
You did. Darn it. Oh, you saw this. Okay. Well, the Nuggets moving on from their coach, despite being a very successful franchise, and similarly the Knicks moving on from the most successful coach they've had in probably the last 2 decades, and Tom Thibodeau to bring in a new voice, because they want to get over the hump. That doesn't really happen in the NFL terribly often, and it's something we saw arguably twice with Jesse Minter going to Baltimore being a maybe, but certainly feels like the intent with the Bills and Joe Brady just feels like an interesting moment to push the chips in. I think it's interesting, and yeah, I could absolutely see it working out. In which case, I am more than willing to eat my words, but until I see DJ Moore play like a number one receiver again, I don't know how I feel about giving up number one receiver trade assets for him.
Yeah, it's a risk. It's a risk. I didn't pick the boring moves. Okay, I didn't pick JSN getting the most money ever for a receiver as a like. Obviously, I liked it. It was, yeah, he's awesome, great. I'm picking these moves that I think could push the needle for some of these teams and push them in the right direction. Um, Michigan won the national championship. I don't know if you care about that, but that happened.
Well, I had life-saving surgery at the University of Michigan, so I am happy on that.
Let's
Um,
go.
yeah, I feel like you got to owe them like a little bit of allegiance. I also have, I mean, the bigger thing too. I have a number of family members,
Right.
cousins who've gone to U of M. So, being from Michigan, I care more about them winning than UConn. And UConn has dominated the women's tournament for so long. I didn't need them winning the men's tournament as well. Okay, my number two. Now, I don't really believe in giving running backs a lot of money.
Hmm.
But I think in 2 years, if this player is still producing, then having Travis Etienne on a $12 million a year contract might look pretty good. 4 years, 48 million with the Saints. This is a team who has done it before with Alvin Kamara being the engine of their offense. We had some real promise with Tyler Shuck. The team looked competitive under first year coach Kellen Moore. And if in 2 years you're a competitive team getting James Cook esque play potentially from, or maybe slightly below that, from Travis Etienne for a comparable amount in a league where Jameer Gibbs is about to get extended, and I didn't realize this, but Bijan is about to get extended as well. Suddenly, 12 million a year, compared to Kenneth Walker getting 15 million a year. Have they gone out and got a guy who they're really familiar with how to take advantage of him in that sort of New Orleans ecosystem, having a long track record with the pass catching back, and you have an explosive offensive talent. Certainly not underpaid, but could look like they're firmly not overpaid. He'll look like he's making his values worth, if not this year, then probably next year, the year after, as the running back market continues to shift upward a little bit, as all positions do. And I just think it's fun. Maybe you can file that under my DJ Moore pick, but I just think ETN is a player who has always kind of made some noise for Jacksonville team that has been not very good and then also very good, right? So he's done it in multiple kind of contexts and levels of ability around him, and I'm excited to see him get an opportunity to contribute for the Saints.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like he really came on strong with the Jags, and then like there was a year where it was like, is Tank Bigsby really the starter of this team? And then last year it was like, no, it's Travis Etienne. Yeah, he's the guy. So it's so strange. He's had ups and downs and ups again. I didn't really consider this as a move with Alvin Kamara still being there, and like I don't know what they're gonna do about that. But I don't hate the contract, and you mentioned it, so I'll mention it now. What I previously had before Devin Lloyd is number four on my list was the Kenneth Walker contract. Um,
Mm.
and the reason I took it off because I was like, this I know this is a lot for a running back, but it's not a lot compared to the other numbers that I'm looking at here for these other free agents. It was just like so obvious to me that that was the hole in their lineup was the running back. Like their running room was
Yeah.
horrible last year, and they just got a Super Bowl MVP that I think is really good. So um, I'll mention that. But yeah, I don't mind the ETN contract for sure. I think is it going to be change their offense completely? No, but I think Kamara's clearly on the outs, and he is right in the midst of his prime. So makes sense.
Speaking of the Jaguars, real quick, here's a fun trivia question for you. How many players did the
Hmm.
Jacksonville Jaguars sign from
Yep.
outside of their team?
I'm not gonna look because that's cheating. Who can
This
I
is this
think?
is per spot track, so I don't know how accurate this is, but um,
Yeah,
it was an eye grabber.
I'm thinking of who signed to the Jaguars, and nothing is coming to mind. Is it two?
It is two.
I'm like, I can't think of a single
Actually, I'm
player.
sorry. One of them was a re-signing of an edge
Ah,
named Dennis Gardeck, who I guess like was a free agent and then came back. And the
got
other
it.
one they have is Chris Rodriguez going 2 years,
Ah,
10 million.
right,
So
right. Running back. Yeah.
two total. Here's another question. I'm not going to bring up. Actually, I don't want to step on your number one worst in case it's this player, but um, sorry, you go. You go ahead. I'll
My
I'll
number
do
one
this
worst
trivia
is a
fact.
receiver. Is yours is it a receiver?
No, no,
Okay.
no, we're good. How many players did the Miami Dolphins sign whose average annual value on their contract is greater than $1.5 million per year. And I'll give you this too.
Uh-huh.
There are on this list either re-signed guys who maybe were previously free agents. I think is how they did this list. There are
Okay.
23 players on the list that I'm looking at. How many of them made more than 1.5 million per year on their contract?
Wow. Malik Willis, that's one.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know of any more.
Yeah. They re-signed Greg Dulcich, their tight end, for a
Yeah.
1 year, $3.25 million deal.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Every
Okay.
single one of these players, all the rest of these players, one
Yeah.
year, and basically the veteran minimum. And I get it, right? I've listened to enough podcasts to know their situation cap wise is miserable.
Sure.
Um,
The Tua dead cap is
so
just going crazy over there.
that to a dead cap. And I'll ask you one more trivia question.
Yeah.
If you can remember the most random free agency prediction I made, this player signed with the Dolphins. Do you remember who I brought up who was like an absolute
Not at all.
nonsense? I paired him with Jake Tonjes, if that helps.
Oh God. It's a tight end?
It's not a tight end, it's a wide
Oh.
receiver.
Oh. But he paired him, so that means he's also a 49er going to a Dolphin?
I wanted to have a conversation about tight end versus wide receiver value. They're not from the
Uh,
same team. They were from the
oh,
same division.
jeez. Oh, Tutu Atwell. Yep.
Tutu
I do
Atwell,
remember.
Tutu
Yeah, yeah,
Atwell.
yeah.
Yeah, he got 1 year, 10 million last year. He got 1.4 this year. Tough
Let's
for Tutu
go.
Atwell. Um, but and Jake Tonjes, by the way, I believe is a restricted free agent. He signed like 2 years, 8 million with the Niners.
Um,
That was my I just had a couple of fun trivia things as I was looking through. I thought that was pretty entertaining. But
yeah.
um,
No, it's
all
good.
right,
Good little honorable mention segment before the number ones here.
give me that receiver drum roll here. I need this. You were setting me up earlier, so
Yeah. I mean, you have to know who it is, I would imagine.
I am not sure. If it's not someone who's already
Interesting.
come up, I
Okay,
I don't know.
let me tell you. Let me do this. I'm gonna read to you players, wide receivers, in order of average salary cap year. I'm going to say blank when I get to the player that I'm presenting to my number one here. Okay, and I'm
Okay,
just gonna keep
and this is
going.
their cap hit this next year.
Yes, this is average value per year on their contract.
Okay, got it,
I
got it,
can
got it.
do total contract if you'd rather. It's pretty similar. I just think
No, that's
average value
I'm
kind of paints a
no
nice
average.
picture.
I prefer average. I prefer average.
Yeah.
That
All right.
doesn't help. Also, if it's like a 5 year versus a 4 year, so yeah, that's
Right.
that's good.
Okay. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, C.D. Lamb, D.K. Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. This one's a tug right here, a collar tug. Brandon Ayuk. Ouch.
That one
Um,
is Ayuk is tough,
that's
dude. I
it's a
almost brought
tough
up
look.
Ayuk as
After
an
that list of
example.
names is insane.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't
Um,
even fair for me to compare to Pickens. Yeah, that's crazy.
okay. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I already said them because then it's Ayuk. I don't know why I repeated them. Um, Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins, blank. That's where a blank player comes into play. Okay. Then we're going to keep going. Jalen
Oh,
Waddle, DJ Moore, George Pickens, Jameson
oh, I
Williams,
do know who this is. I do know
Devontae
who this is.
Smith, Nico Collins, Cortland Sutton. Who is that player, Jared?
I was trying to remember the list I was looking at earlier.
Yeah.
This is Colts
Yeah.
legend, Alec Pierce.
Colts legend Alec Pierce re-signed 4 year, $114 million deal. That is 84 million guaranteed, 60 million he received upon signing. Okay. Alec Pierce is basically for most of his career has been a streak guy, right? He's been a guy that run down the field, you throw the ball, a long ball at him, which teams have plenty of that. You know, Marquez Valdez Scantling is like a primary example of like who that guy can be.
He's a
Um,
Tyquan Thornton, baby. Yeah,
right,
I'm
all
with
right.
you.
Um, and maybe they're going to utilize him differently. Maybe they see him differently. They got rid of Michael Pittman. They traded him to the Steelers. So maybe now he's the number one. They don't have A.D. Mitchell anymore because they traded him last year, right? So, like, if that's the idea, he's going to be the number one. They're going to utilize him differently. Okay. For this contract to make sense, he has to at least be like Deshaun Jackson levels of vertical threat. You know what I mean? Like he has
Good
to
point.
be really good at that vertical threat ability. I'm gonna give you the same list, Jared. I
Yep.
would like you to stop me when I name a player worse than Alec Pierce.
Okay.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, Monroe St. Brown.
We can skip Brandon Ayuk. And I will
We're
say
gonna,
this, by the
we're
way, I know nothing about Alec Pierce
yeah.
statistically, so I'll just go off vibes, but go ahead.
Yeah, as you should. That's what you should do. We're gonna skip Ayuk. Yeah, Ayuk is an outlier in this exercise, I think. Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, George Pickens,
I
Jameson
think the
Williams.
first debatable person is like I would probably feel more comfortable with Alec Pierce's production at this point in his career than DJ Moore.
Okay. Um, let's keep going for the sake of exercise. George
Yeah.
Pickens, Jameson Williams, Devontae Smith, Nico Collins, Cortland Sutton, Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, Jacoby Myers, Calvin Ridley,
Ooh, Jacoby Myers is making that much money.
20 million, 3 years, 60 million, yeah.
I would say probably Jacoby Myers. You could really start to have a conversation. I think
Okay.
Calvin Ridley, you could definitely have a conversation.
Calvin Ridley for sure, right? Yeah. Okay, so Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman Jr., who was on the Colts, both making around 17.5. Jacoby Myers is making 20. Do you remember where Alec Pierce was in this list? He's in between T. Higgins and Jalen Waddle.
Crazy. It's crazy.
You said DJ Moore. He's a couple spots below that as like your first point of argument. But then I said like 10 more names before we got to another guy that you could argue.
Yeah, and I think based on our conversation, it's pretty clear that I view DJ Moore as another distinct outlier in that list. I think Ayuk and
Yeah.
Moore, one of these things is not like the other for me personally.
But like,
Um,
would you tell me you'd rather have Alec Pierce as your number one option on your team at this point in their careers? Maybe, but
I mean
uh,
that's the thing about it that's crazy to me too is thinking about like how I feel about Jamison Williams. So I think he's a great receiver. I think
yeah,
he's a player
he's just
who I
better than
really
Alec
love.
Pierce.
And I
Probably.
think he's better than Alec Pierce. And I also
Yeah,
don't think I would want to build an offense where I need Jamison Williams to be the guy because
right.
he's got special skills for sure.
Hmm.
But I really like I like having a possession style receiver. And if Alec Pierce can't be a possession receiver, then like, are you just hoping that you hit long bombs every week? That's
So
yikes.
that's why it lands number one on my list. When you look at it compared to all the other names and the value, it's like, oh, this is what we spent our money on. And I like it was so weird because coming into free agency, I feel like there was a lot of buzz around Alec Pierce, and I was like, why? And then he got paid a bunch of money, and I was like, okay, I guess.
Um, can I ask you? I'm going to ask you a question as I transition over to mine because
Yeah,
I think this
please.
is really connected. Do
Yeah.
you think if they had signed him for 4 years, 80 million, do you think that would have been a fair contract?
4 years, 80 million. It's around where we started getting Jacoby Myers and these other guys that kind of were like, honestly, I feel like it's still like a little bit of an overpay, but like it probably doesn't make my list as like, oh, it's a horrible move.
Okay, so you're saying that you would give him a contract that is two-thirds as much as the contract that he made, roughly, would probably be about fair for you.
Yeah.
Okay. What if I told you that instead of being, 150% of the contract you would give him, he made
Sure.
150% of what the highest paid receiver in the league made. They just
Oh,
took that number and added 22 million more dollars to that.
yeah. That would be way
That would
too
feel
much
a little
money.
that would be way too much money. So why Oh, why is Tyler Linderbaum making $27 million per year when the highest paid center was making 18 million a year?
Yeah.
Why? That's $9 million. And I sit here recognizing that Frank Ragnow, an elite center, arguably the second best center in the National Football League, left, and it severely crippled my team's offensive line. Would I pay 22, $23 million for Frank Ragnow's level of play? Probably. Would I reset the market at a position by $9 million when the previous high was $18 million? Oh my God. I don't understand. Who was going to pay him 26.5, guys? Apparently, all the reporting was that, like, no matter what number, they were just going to pay him more.
Yeah.
And I understand the Raiders are bad and they had a ton of money. But what if Fernando Mendoza's CJ Stroud? What if he's really good from the jump? You want to put more weapons around him? Shucks, you're giving nearly $30 million per year to your center. You can't afford to do that. Or maybe it takes a few years for Mendoza to come around. But it's the first 2 years of that deal are done, and Linderbaum's looking around for an extension, and an extension typically means a raise, especially if he's playing as well as he has been. So then, do you give him 3 years, 90 million? Where do we go? Where do we go from here? Do you think he's just going to then take 3 years, 75 next time? You gave yourself nowhere to go. You gave yourself nowhere to grow on this contract. You're dedicating so much money to this deal. And I was talking about this with my boss. I've really decided for myself for free agency, you should never make a deal with the assumption that you aren't going to be good enough over the term of that deal for your overpaying to matter. You should assume that you are going to be a good team that needs every dollar it can get and think from that point of view. In my opinion. In my opinion. And Damon, the Detroit Lions, my Lions, they also signed a center. His name is Cade Mays. He was a backup for Carolina, ended up starting for them last year. They gave him a 3 year deal. Do you know how much money they gave him on that 3 year deal total?
Oh God, I have no idea. Let's say 27 million. 1 year of Tyler Linderbaum.
Even less, $25 million. And I get it. The guy was a former backup. He's more of an ascending guy
Yeah.
than someone at Linderbaum's level. I understand. But Linderbaum isn't even necessarily the surefire number one center in the National
Right.
Football League.
For sure.
He was just the number one free agent in this class.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it would be helpful for Mendoza, but I also think that like the 12th best center would be helpful for
Yeah.
Mendoza. I think trading a third round pick for the 15th best center in the league or something, probably get him for less than that. And you get a similar amount of advantage because if your argument is that you're helping Fernando Mendoza, you really just need a guy who's cerebral enough to help make plays at the line, even if he's not a great athlete. If he can make calls, that's probably enough to give Mendoza kind of support he needs as a rookie. I know I just exploded there, especially on a signing that you liked, but for me,
It was
I
a
just
group. It
think
was
it
a
is.
group effort for me. It was not the lone thing.
It was a
It
group
was.
effort.
It
That's
was
true.
in a thing, a list of things. Yeah.
And I predicted I wanted to be cute because everyone was saying Linderbaum's going to the Raiders. I was like, no, Linderbaum will just vanish into dust in Arizona instead. If the Raiders stink, Linderbaum disappears from the mind and he is gone. It's just a bummer. I don't
Yeah.
like it. I don't like it. I think if this was 3 years, 75, it would be wild, but it would at least feel like I could see how they got there. And if
Yeah.
it was 23 a year, I would understand. It's 3 years, 69 million. That's funny. Um, but it's not. So that's for me, just because you're bad and you have a lot of money doesn't mean you do this to the center market for the sake of doing it. Assume you're going to be good enough to need that money back.
Yeah.
I
I
rest my
also think
case.
when I was putting together my combination of Raider moves, I thought about the Linderbaum deal, and I thought, what if they use this to sign two or three like good offensive linemen? that might have been a better use.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, like I said when I described it, the Looney Tunes eyes popping out. I think is what I said. Because it was an insane deal. I liked the idea of it more than the numbers on paper. For sure. So I understand how you got there.
When
And I
an
also
edge
think I
rusher is
didn't
dis
understand the center market as well when you like, I didn't really look into what is all the other centers making. Just didn't bother.
yeah, Creed Humphrey currently making 18 million
Mm,
a year is like at the top of the market. So a $9 million jump is just
right.
crazy.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
it's hard to fathom. But you know what? I hope it works out, I guess. I'm not against the players making more money or anything. Don't get me wrong. Although actually, I'm sorry. Not to dogpile on this, okay? Tyler Linderbaum, Creed Humphrey, and Cam Jurgens. Okay, these are the top three paid centers in the National Football League. Cam Jurgens makes $17 million per year. The number four paid center in the National Football League is Connor McGovern. How much money do you think he makes per year?
He just got traded to the Bills. No, to the Bears from the Bills, right? Um,
He is currently a Bill. I believe he
oh,
just
maybe
signed
I'm.
with the Bills.
Oh,
You're
okay.
thinking of the Patriots center, but David Edwards, I think.
I'm just thinking of randomness. Like 9 million. I feel like it's low.
Yeah, it's 13.
Mm,
And Cade Mays, who I just mentioned, 8.3 million a year,
yeah,
is paid like a top 10 center in the league.
yeah.
I just I don't know. I think
No, the
it's a
hundred
little
fifty
much.
percent is wild for sure.
It's, I've just never seen anything like it, and I think it can't go unacknowledged. But I apologize for taking up so much airspace. I started saying those things at 10:45. It is now 11:05. Um, Damon, I want to just lay the floor out for you. I want you to wax poetic, even rhapsodic. Tell me why this
Yeah,
is the best move any team made.
the best move any team made. Looking at my order from 1 to 5 for both, I'm like, I don't know if this is the right order. And I kind of want to throw the Kenneth Walker deal back on here somewhere, but that's okay. Um, Number one, it's a package deal. It includes a deal you mentioned as a dislike earlier, as
Right, right.
as is a theme. But again, I'm thinking directionally. I'm thinking I'm not thinking how fucked your salary cap is going to be from this.
Right.
So the vibes are different. Jared, I'm gonna see how long it takes you to name this unit. And maybe me saying that you mentioned a deal as a dislike will help you get there faster. Give me the worst units in football in 2024. 2025, I guess.
Like this last year,
Yes, this past season, what were the worst units in football?
I'm looking at my list. Are we talking about side of the ball or position?
Correct. Side of the ball, yeah. The worst sides of the
Oh,
ball.
you must be referring to the Bengals defense.
I sure am referring to the Bengals defense. God, it was horrible last year. And we mentioned the receivers, Chase and Higgins all the time. We mentioned Joe Burrow. That side of the ball is relatively figured out, assuming they're healthy. The defense was a disaster last year. This was a team that made a Super Bowl. This is a team that lost a Super Bowl. This is a team that's defense is horrible. And they spent a lot on defense this offseason. If you look at their offseason, it's like all defense basically. And like a couple offensive lineman re-signings, I believe. So the deal you mentioned to alluded to earlier was Boye Mafe, 3 years, 60 million, right? Coming off that Super Bowl team in Seattle. So, it seems like that really good defense, those players probably got a little more than they probably should have based on their skill. But they also took Jonathan Allen, 2 years, 26 million, the defensive line, obviously without Trey Hendrickson now. They took safety Brian Cook, 3 years, 40 million, and they also had Kyle Duggar, who I think is a little underappreciated. The idea was that the reason it went to number one on my list is because that was basically their whole offseason was getting a bunch of defense because their defense was so bad last year. I'm glad they weren't like, we need a third receiver, we need a tight end, or we need a running back, like something stupid. I'm glad they spent whatever money they had, at least on the right side of the ball. And really it was edge or it was defensive line and secondary, which were the clear holes in their team last year, and their defense was abysmal. So I'm glad that they addressed it in some capacity. Now, does this mean they're going to be a top 10 defense? Probably not, but they will at least be, I think, a respectable unit on day one of the season. So that's why they land here for me.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. And I know I was poking some holes in the Mafe deal in particular, but it's to me less egregious than Jalen Phillips for
For
sure.
sure.
And I think that when I was looking at the Bengals moves, I don't like the Bengals, so that was maybe part of it too. I did have to give it up that they recognized they needed to put more money in defense, and they did. So I 100% agree that I think they took the right approach in the sense that their defense was kind of unfieldable if they wanted to be a consistently competitive team. And so I respected the fact that they're taking swings to actually meaningfully improve the defense instead of just hoping that paying more receivers more money is enough to make you a winning football team. So,
Right.
um, all right, my number one.
I have no idea
Yeah,
where we're
obviously
going here.
I've been kind of picking these in sort of random order, but this one it feels fitting.
Yeah.
Originally, I had this paired with another deal, which was the Niners sending a 2026 third to the Cowboys for Osa Odigizua. I just believe interior pressure is valuable, and
Hmm.
going out and getting a solid interior guy, why not? But I think there's a trade that's beautiful in its simplicity, and it really just doesn't feel like a mistake for either side. In part because it's between two bad teams, and so if it doesn't work, what's the worst that can happen? One of the first deals of the offseason, maybe the first trade, the Titans and the Jets.
Hmm.
The Jets send Jermaine Johnson the third to the Titans for T'Vondre Sweat. I think T'Vondre Sweat is an underrated interior guy. I believe he's a UT man. Jermaine Johnson, a first round pick who played very well under Robert Saleh. I ultimately currently am at the point where I think the elite interior defensive linemen are harder to find, and I think Sweat could be that, provided I'm not misremembering him and he's actually a D end and I'm like a fool, but I'm very confident he's an interior guy and he's young. It's only his third season in the league. Yeah, he's a nose tackle, but um, I think he's got some disruption potential, and he was 12th in defensive rookie of the year voting, so that's something. And
Yeah.
Jermaine Johnson's had multiple good years under Saleh, and so this feels like a trade where if it doesn't work out, it likely isn't altering the course of your franchise. But if it does work out, it's savvy, right? You move on from one defensive player and pick up another that's a better fit for your scheme. And that goes both ways, right? Salah getting his edge, Glenn getting a nose tackle up the middle. That was a big part of his defense in Detroit with a guy like Aleem McNeil looking for that interior pressure. I just think there's a simple beauty to that. There's no picks attached. It's a pure player for player trade. The stakes are low. The opportunity's high. These are players that have, Jermaine Johnson, especially having an attachment to his prior coach. I just think it's sweet. I don't know. It's very clean, very, very nice and tidy. And it's the kind of move I love because I love moves that create opportunity um, more so than claim to solidify anything, right? And I don't think either of these moves prohibits Tennessee from taking an edge or the Jets. They're both pretty much predicted to take edges at the top of the first round, but they could be nice pieces for these respective teams. So that is my number one. Thoughts?
So kind of a win for both sides. Um, Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about the players to be like, I can't believe it. But when you frame the context in like, it seems like an ideal kind of situation for both, compared to their previous stop. Makes sense to me. Yeah, I'm disappointed we didn't get the Chiga Conquo. I thought he was coming for sure.
I realized that I used my Taekwon Thornton yap, and I was like, oh. And honestly, I've always liked Chigo Conquo's vibe, and I think 3 years 27 is a good deal based on that vibe. But I don't know enough about him as a
I
player
was
to
I
really
was like,
make
this
an
is a
informed
strong number
choice.
one. Jared's finishing off.
Wow, he's really leaning into Chigo Conquo.
Yeah.
No, I don't feel quite strong enough about Chigo Conquo. I think it was just a bit of a numbers game. I had a couple others that I listed, but I didn't think were worth quite as much airtime. I figured we could start
Yeah.
more interesting conversations elsewhere.
Um, now that we're almost 3 hours into the podcast, let's go ahead and quickly recap our five through ones because
Yeah,
we talked about it for an hour and a half and people probably forgot. So let's start with least favorite. Five, I had Reek Woolen to the Eagles. Four, Jalen Naylor to the Raiders. Three, Texans traded for David Montgomery. Two, Chiefs signing Travis Kelce to a 3-year deal. And one, Colts signing Alec Pierce to that 4-year deal. That was a lot.
yeah. I'll do my bottom five as well. Number five, the Rams going all in draft capital wise on Trent McDuffie, if you ignore the pick they have from the Falcons. Number four, the Titans signing Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott to medium sized corner contracts to try to fix a sinking ship. Number three, Boye Mafe, linebacker to the Cincinnati Bengals, and Jalen Phillips, the defensive end to the Carolina Panthers, receiving $20 and $30 million a year, respectively. Then number two, Romeo Dobbs going from the Packers to New England to be a number two receiver for them. And number one, the egregious, inconceivable overpay of one Tyler Linderbaum.
Yeah, for my favorites, you'll notice a lot of Jared's dislikes. Um, Titans signing Wan'Dale Robinson. Really like that deal. Four, I now have just Devin Lloyd alone. Rescinded Jalen Phillips. Kind of wish I still had Kenneth Walker here, and I took him off my list right before we started recording. Mistakes were made. Three, Tyler Linderbaum, among other signings, such as Kirk Cousins as a mentor, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker. It was really a group effort, not the Linderbaum thing. He's just the name that stands out, of course. Two, another deal that Jared didn't like, DJ Moore, second round pick for to the Bills. I like the Bills aspect of trying to trade for a guy that could be a number one receiver. We'll see how it pans out. And number one, Boye Mafe, among others, to the Bengals for their defensive bolster, Jonathan Allen, Brian Cook, Kyle Duggar. Just spending money on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, my top five I have listed right under Trigo Conquo, Eagles Reek Woolen at number five. A move Damon hated. But I liked number four, the Chiefs re-upping Tyquan Thornton for 2 years, 11 million. Number three, Cowboys giving the franchise tag to Pickens, getting a discount on an elite wide receiver. Number two, the Saints creating a succession plan for Alvin Kamara in the form of Travis Etienne. And number one, the elegant, simple player for player trade of the Jets sending Jermaine Johnson III for the Titans to Vondre Sweat. They even have J and T in the name of the teams they're leaving. It's really kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. This is interesting because we have some differing takes on some of these, so it'll be fun to see how they pan out as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think our philosophies on free agency, I really valued being frugal and considerate of the cap as much as possible. I think you were a little more comfortable with spending as long as it was a meaningful investment in the team. And so I
Yeah,
think keeping an eye on these teams will be an interesting way to see whose philosophy bears out this year.
I think my understanding of salary cap is also not quite there yet. I'm so NBA salary cap brained that like trying to get the NFL salary cap and dead cap and like things like that just don't make sense to me quite yet.
I think that's totally valid, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm really an expert. I more just think about relative to the rest of the position.
And I was gonna say I
Um,
don't understand positional value at all. I just read the numbers and because in NBA it's just like players and money. It's not like the center
yeah,
market in the NBA, you know. So
that's uh, that's totally fair. I remember that was something that we kind of went over a little bit last year, and maybe something worth revisiting as we head into next season. But the draft is 2.5 weeks away. Coming up on the future of the league. I think we should. I've been starting to read some mock drafts, so
yeah.
I'm thinking of plagiarizing. I mean, making my own, and maybe you can make your own. We can do
Well,
a
we'll
mock
have a
draft,
mock draft. Yeah, all 7 rounds. What do you think?
all seven, of course, and then we'll see. We'll add up who
We'll
has
have a
more
4 hour
correct.
podcast with the mock draft, and then we'll have another 4 hour podcast after the real draft, analyzing each pick from the real draft.
It would be kind of funny to live stream the draft and be like, "Oh, I've never heard of him. It's interesting." Um, and then if there's a player we don't know, we cut to Dom for analysis and just kind of let Dom figure it out. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Um, I think we should probably try to get Dom on talk Fernando Mendoza. I think that would be kind of fun. If not before the draft, then some point
Hmm.
after. I think that'd
Hmm.
be a good thing to do. Um, yeah, this is it was great to be back in the saddle. Um, hopefully we can get back to doing every week. Maybe in the off season we look at something like every other week, just depending on, especially I mean that June and July period is pretty dry, but an opportunity for us to think about some more ethical topics too, Damon. So
Some UFL
you have any?
coverage, you know.
Oh my God, what are the Panthers getting up to? The Birmingham Stallion coverage, please. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if
don't
I
think I
can.
can name a single UFL team, honestly.
There used to be the San Antonio Brahmas, but they moved, which is kind of a shame. Um, that would have been kind of fun to go to a Brahmas game and report
Mm.
back. Anyway,
Hmm.
um, yeah, let's not cover the UFL. And just forget it exists.
All
Uh,
the comments have been asking since we're in the off season. Are we postponing the kick? So the kick getting rested until the season comes back?
Actually, I sent you the article. There is a kicker from Japan who is attempting to break into the NFL. He was kicking
Hmm.
for Hawaii for a number
Hmm.
of years. I think he's got a cool story, and it's the period of the season where we're getting a lot of tryouts. So I'm going to try to make a kick to help build his case here to make it into the league.
It's weird. I'm hearing the kicker's being given some advice as he sets up the kick. They're saying something like the episode and comment even maybe
Um,
subscribe.
yeah. As you say those words, I feel a wave of calm rush over me as I represent the kickers of the future. Um, and I'm gonna send it up.
Oh, right off the camera, right down the center lane in the tryout.
Woo!
That kid is going to the league because that kick was good.
Woo!